Okay, much better. All right, good evening, everyone. Okay, all right. So welcome to our September Board of Education meeting. It's actually the first meeting after we started the school year. For now, I would like everyone to please stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take a seat. And as you know, we have a group of lovely students, very talented musicians here, and we're here to recognize our all-state musicians. So for now, we are going to have our the coordinator for fine and performing arts, Dr. Hale, to introduce the kids.
Thank you, Ms. Cheng, the Board of Education, and Dr. Rogers, for this opportunity to recognize true musical excellence. The achievement of these students tonight is a result of a journey that began 8 years ago, and in some cases more. This achievement is the product of a community that values and supports the arts, incredible parents who went the extra mile, a world-class music faculty, but most importantly, the dedication of our incredible students. It's a result of persistence, hard work, artistry, and an unfailing love of the craft. I am proud to present to our Board of Education 47 students who are recognized as all-state caliber musicians in the state of New York. 26 of them were invited to perform or participate with the best musicians in the state of New York this December 4th through 7th in Rochester, a number that could increase as alternates are called up throughout the season. This is the highest number of all-state musicians in Nassau County and quite possibly the entire state. I am incredibly proud to present to you the Syosset 2025 All-State Musicians. So students, when I call your name, please come to the risers. We're going to start at the top riser, yes, and be recognized for your truly outstanding achievement. Beginning with Gianna Affatato, violin. Elliot B., tenor. Aiden Chantemson, violin. Daniel Chen, violin. Michelle Chen, cello. Haley Chi, clarinet. Catherine Fay, flute. Jason Feldman, composition and songwriting. Joe Funatomi, clarinet. Sam Gerson, bass, voice. Abigail Ho, violin. Ethan Hong, tenor voice. Derek Huang, violin. Emma Huang, violin. Alice Huang, alto voice. And Arvin Huang, tenor voice. Joshua Kim, cello. Olivia Kim, viola. Wanbin Kim, trombone. Harrison King, tenor voice. Simon Lee, alto sax. Jonathan Lee, double bass. Madeline Lee, double bass. Skylar Leung, viola. Darren Leung, bass clarinet. Valerie Liang, viola. Sean Lim, violin. Jeremy Lin, viola. Austin Ma, violin. Joel Park, cello. Jaden Pedro, jazz guitar. Catherine Purdy, soprano voice. Nandika Salhotra, soprano voice. Kyle Scott, double bass. Nikhil Shah, alto sax. William Shee, trombone. Ryan Sue, clarinet. Carolyn Wang, cello. Russell Wang, violin. Lisa Yasinov, soprano voice. Taylor Ye, violin. Caleb Yu, trumpet. Caleb Yun, trumpet. Angela Zhang, piccolo. Leon Zhang, viola. And also Angela Zhang on the flute. And since you're on the choral rises, you'll be expected to sing. One more round of applause for our 2025 All-State musicians. What's that? Yeah, you can leave them now.
Okay. Congratulations to these talented musicians again. I see that the musicians are exiting, and if parents, you're more than welcome to stay for our Board of Education meeting. If not, this is your perfect chance to make your graceful exit. Thank you. And then the board members will take a moment to go on to the dais. Okay, so we are going to begin our meeting with the approval of the minutes of the August 25th, 2025 monthly meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? And Dr. Rufo, can we have the treasurer's report and appropriations adjustments, please?
Yes, as indicated in the treasurer's report, the cash on hand for the month end July 2025 was $70,122,457.25. It shows that bank balances for all cash accounts were reconciled to the book balances and were collateralized in accordance with the district's investment policy and district banking agreements. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rufo. 6A and 6B can be taken together. They're the approval of the treasurer's report and appropriation adjustments. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Mr. Ginsberg. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? And then the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, and we are going to have a presentation on building belongings, and we'll have Ms. Gothwaite and Mr. Steinberg to give us the presentation.
While they're approaching the podium, I'll just say welcome back to all the members of our community whose kids have started the school year. We're hoping that they're having a wonderful school year. One of the things that the school district has been deeply engaged in over the course of the last several years is really working on reinforcing our sense of community. We're a wonderfully diverse community, but we are one community. And we have initiatives from the earliest of ages to our high school students where we're trying to build their sense of belonging and their sense of being part of a community that's greater than themselves. So I know that this is one of the goals. I'll talk a little bit more about the board's new goals in a little bit. But I wanted to get right into the presentation so we can talk about some of the changes that we've made since last year and how we're working on deepening this work with our students. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Erin Goldthwait, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, or as she says to the students whenever we meet with them, I'm the person that makes sure you get all the help you need.
Thank you very much. So thank you to Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, the Board of Education for this opportunity to continue some conversations that we've been engaging with throughout the past 2 years that I've been here, and kind of elaborating on the work that we've been doing. Tonight we're going to focus on not only opening doors to build community, which is a presentation that we highlighted for you last year, but on how when we open those doors, we're also building opportunities for belonging. In previous presentations, you've heard us highlight things like how we've increased our mental health support and staff, which we're going to focus on shortly, which has allowed for a more proactive social emotional support to be embedded within our school systems. In particular, at the elementary schools, we have SEL blocks where we're able to embed that support in the 6-day cycle. And it's here where we shared in the past how our teachers and social workers have worked collaboratively together to be able to engage in lessons and proactive skills that focus on our social emotional core competencies of self-awareness, self-management, being able to work and collaboratively, positively with relationship building and making responsible decisions. We've done that through some foundational support in our Harmony programs and our Olvea's bullying prevention programs. And just this summer, we actually had an elementary curriculum team that worked on identifying key skills in supporting a lot of the social emotional learning and identifying then and creating lessons for teachers to use in the classroom by building a Google website. So that is a lot of the work that we've been able to focus on and continue to enhance at the elementary level. Today, we're going to start off by giving a presentation about how we're also opening doors and continue to work with programming, more specifically at the middle school and high school level. We wanted to extend these conversations today in this area because we do think that it's an opportunity that when students know that they can belong, it allows them to be able to foster different areas of interest as well as who they are as individuals themselves. In addition to that, this is timely. There's been shifts in laws and expectations in schools, and now students' eyes and hands are a little bit more open and available for the opportunities that are there in front of them. So this might look a little familiar to you. It's actually the last slide of the last presentation that we gave last year, and it provides continued relevance in the work that we're going to be speaking about tonight. So by directly and indirectly modeling and teaching social emotional supports for students, they're able to create healthy identities, manage their own emotions, achieve personal and collective goals, display empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Research does suggest that students who feel more well-adjusted and connected to their school environment and have access to mental health supports yield more positive outcomes. When students have supportive relationships and opportunities to develop and practice their social and cognitive skills across different contexts, academic learning accelerates. At the middle and high school level, students are navigating a critical developmental phase of life. It's marked by rapid physical, cognitive, and social emotional changes, making a strong sense of belonging within the school system especially important. It's during this time that adolescents are forming their identities, figuring out and seeking out peer acceptance, striving for independence, all while still needing, even though they may not realize it, the assistance and support of the adults around them. A positive sense of belonging provides students with stability, security, connection, which then in turn gives them confidence, resilience, and an opportunity to engage in their learning. When students feel valued and connected and included, it gives them a higher opportunity to build those healthy relationships they need to be successful, take academic risks, and develop the social emotional skills that they not only need to be successful in school, but in all aspects of their life. So as students strengthen these skills, we then not only help watch them gain confidence to figure out who they are and how they relate with others, but learn to make more thoughtful choices and shape their both academic and personal successes in the future. This all begins with the Board of Education goals and district mission. Syosset's culture of care is based on the roots of the social emotional competencies and, like your goals, focuses on the areas of academic excellence, inclusive and engaging culture, climate and character, a connected community, and efficient operations. Here we kind of highlighted within each of your goals some of the things that stand out when you're thinking about a system and a belonging within that system. We really want to ensure that we're creating those opportunities for individualized learning experiences, helping students identify how to create a healthy work-stress balance, being able to cultivate kind, safe, and supportive cultures within our buildings, foster wellness, balance, and a deep appreciation for multiple perspectives, being able to create connections with families and all stakeholders within our community, strengthen those relationships with communication and engagement. It's the essence of who we are and why we do what we do. You'll also see an infographic on this slide, which highlights the MTSS system that we have. And that's going to be a little bit of the structure that we'll talk to you about how we create belonging within schools through a tiered approach. What's available for all, what happens when some need a little bit more, and what happens when individuals require much more structured and intensified support. My colleague, Mr. Steinberg, is about to step up here and start out our presentation with some more specifics about what we do to create opportunities of belonging within schools. He's going to share ways that we create a school culture and a welcoming environment for all students, considering our Tier 1 approach through this process of creating opportunities of belonging for students. I'll then be able to return back to talk a little bit more about what do we do when a whole building approach or a school-wide culture is just not enough, and some students might need a little bit more, looking at a model through a Tier 2 and a Tier 1 approach. So it's at this moment that I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mr. Steinberg.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Goldthwait, and thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Rogers. So we'll start off this part of the conversation focusing on pride. Pride has been at the foundation of who we are in terms of our character. It is something that we kind of overlay across all our programs. It has been with us for about 20 years now in the district and has been infused across the district in every one of our buildings. So when you're in the different buildings around the district, you can see elements of pride throughout. And why we start here with pride is because of the value of the common language it creates for us as a community and for belonging. And we know research tells us that if there's a common language, then people can speak that language, they understand that language, they can connect to that community and culture that they're in. And when you can connect to a community and culture through the common language, then the ability for our students to be seen and to be heard is elevated. So that's where we start this conversation here. We continue talking about sort of the overall school program and the learning experiences that we create. And why do we create these varied learning experiences? Well, first off, we need to provide choice for our students. They need choice so they can begin to experiment with their likes and their dislikes and begin to find where their passions may lie. But it's through those choices that we're actually strengthening their voice, because they get a better understanding of who they are, so now they have a stronger voice where they can advocate for themselves. They can get out there and tell us what they need. And that's empowering them, and that speaks to giving them their agency and allowing them to have that agency as they move through. So when you have all of these different programs, which we'll get into a conversation in a bit about, the students step into these programs, and this is where now they have voice, they have choice. Now they start to build relationships. They start connecting within the community. They connect around like interests. So they'll go and participate in different activities, and that's where they build these trusted relationships. They build trusted peer relationships. This is where they get introduced to coaches and advisors and teachers, where they can start building those trusted relationships, and they start to foster having a trusted adult in a space. So you can see how slowly they begin to now start belonging into the school community. No matter the age that they come to us, no matter the school that they're in, this is standard practice that what goes on. All of this leads to them being able to affirm their own identity, because now they have a confidence in who they are. So they start to feel better about who they are, and they begin to see themselves. So when we look at the overall school program, when we look at, let's say, the middle and the high school program, the middle schools have over 60 course offerings. The high school has over 300 course offerings at the high school alone. And what that provides the students to do is to now interact with the curriculum in a way that helps them to now further affirm who they are. And the work that you have heard us report on before is that we are in a continuous cycle of reviewing curricular work, so that we ensure that the materials that are being put in front of the students are materials that mean something to them. They speak to them. They can connect with those materials. Just as an aside, we had a project this summer where our choral teachers were rewriting some of the choral program to ensure that they were including non-Western influences in some of the choral selections. And that was an upgrade. And that's just an example of the kind of curriculum work that goes on to ensure that as our student population evolves, that a curriculum is evolving with them as well. So they feel as if when they're sitting in their classes, it speaks to them. And it's something that they can connect to, and it gives them that sense of belonging. And that's what happens inside the classroom. And then outside the classroom, we have over 200 clubs and groups between the two middle schools and the high schools. And we say it, we often repeat it, is that there's something for everybody here in Syosset. And when there's not something for somebody, we'll do everything we can to create that something, to create that anchor point, to create that opportunity for
And then
students
outside
to
the
connect
classroom,
with
we have
their
over
school.
200
And so
clubs
having
and
those
groups
between the
clubs
two
and
middle schools
activities
and
in
high
all of
schools,
these courses
and
is
we
all by
say it, we
design
often
to help
repeat
the
it,
students
is that
feel
there's something.
comfortable.
Now, we know that there are some points in the student's career where it's a little bit more anxiety producing. It could be those transition years. So it could be the 5 to 6, the 8 to 9. So we do spend a lot of time within that program to ensure students are feeling comfortable. So as you're aware, we run a number of different orientations where students are visiting the schools that they're going to be going to. They're interacting with the older students who they're going to be seeing. The 8th graders will be visiting the high school once again this year in December. We'll have an opportunity to feel what high school feels like, and to be able to engage with some teachers and learn about some of the elective courses as well. So all of these programs are put in place so that students have multiple opportunities where they can feel like they're welcome. Even our athletic fields, we have over 120 athletic teams. We have 1/4 of our student body are athletes, and with a lot of those students playing multiple sports. So there's high levels of engagement with our extracurricular athletic program that keeps our students here. We saw how many all-state musicians we had this evening, and that's because of the musical opportunities students have in this school to connect and find those ways to do that. And then on top of all that, there's the school-wide programming that happens. All of our schools are no place for hate schools. And so we reinforce these values of pride as we're going through this. Just recently, the high school, during their superintendent's conference day, did a whole afternoon session on pride, where the teachers came together and they discussed how they can actually do a better job of modeling pride within the classroom. What does it look like inside the classroom from a teacher's perspective? And so these are the kinds of conversations and the kind of work that happens so that we're ensuring that on the tier 1, on the school-wide basis, that we're providing students with every opportunity to connect and feel like they belong within the school. And so when that doesn't happen inside the classroom, because from a teacher's perspective, one of our students will come in and feel that way right away, and some of them do need additional support along the way to help them feel like they have a place here with us. With every opportunity to connect and feel like they come back up and talk to us a little bit more about what those targeted support kids, because not every one of our students will come in and feel that way right away, and some of them do need additional support along the way to help them feel like they have a place here with us. So when that doesn't happen for all kids, because not every one of our students will come in and feel that way right away, and some of them do need additional support along the way to help them feel.
So as I said
they have a
earlier, and you
place
just
here
heard
with us.
Mr.
So
Steinberg
that's
notice
where
that
I'll invite,
sometimes
Ms. Ms. Goldthwait to come back up and
What's
talk to
available
us a
for
little bit more
all
about
is just
what
not
those
enough.
targeted
And that could be
supports
for
look like.
many different reasons. There could be students that struggle to figure out how to engage and where to engage. They might need more confidence in those areas. So as I to said be able to earlier, do and you that just heard work. Mr. They might Steinberg notice have that some skill sometimes deficits that need to be remediated in some what's available for capacity, all and then we might need is to just not intervene. enough And that could be support for students in many that- different in that reasons. way. There could be So students that struggle on the to screen figure out here, how you to see a lot of engage and where different to areas engage. in They which might we're need able more to provide more confidence in those targeted areas to be able small to group do that work. instruction. They might With the have types some of skill skills that we do deficits have that need to be available within the remediated in buildings some themselves. capacity. I'll And then talk we might about need to some intervene specific and support experiences, students and in this that is just to in that highlight way. some of So what is on the available screen within our here, school you see a system. lot of different areas Sometimes in which we're able to recess, provide more the targeted lunchroom, small group instruction unstructured activities with the different could be a hard supports time that we for a do have student. available. They might within not the feel that buildings they belong. themselves. They might I'll not know talk who to about sit some with. specific They might not know where to experiences, go. and this is They just might to not know highlight what to do. some of what is available. So in the middle within school our level, we school do system. actually have some spaces Sometimes for students to go that are a little bit recess, more the structured, lunchroom, so that we can unstructured help provide activities them the support could be that's required required during during that that time. time. They might not feel You that could they see belong. that in They might not something know like who the to wellness sit spaces. with. Both They of might our not know where middle to go. schools They have a might not know wellness what to room, do. Where students can So have in the middle access school to level, if we do needed actually throughout have the some school day or spaces during for a lunch students to period go that are a little bit more during structured, lunchtime as well. so There are that some we can lunchtime help provide nooks. them So the support that's the required administration during will that find time. empty classrooms. You can see and that make them be in something like the available wellness during a spaces. lunchtime Both of our period, middle where maybe schools have a small group wellness activity room can happen, where and students it's can have monitored by a access teacher to that if might needed be on throughout the lunch school day day or or during a lunch period, or a period. monitor that might be During available. lunchtime as well, there are some lunchtime There's also nooks. lunchtime So, workshops that are the available, where administration students will might find seek empty access to classrooms being and able make to them go be and get available additional during a support that they may lunchtime need. period, where maybe a That's small just group something that's activity can available, and happen, we're really and it's monitored excited by a because teacher that moving might be on forward lunch into duty the in that future, time we're period, also or looking to monitor that build might be these available. spaces in our high school with our new There's guidance also resource lunchtime center. workshops that are available where students might seek Sometimes access to we being might need able to go and intervene get in these additional moments, and support just that they may providing need. a space. That's is not just enough. something that's We available. need to and we're provide really skills, excited because strategies, moving and forward into interventions. the future. We're also And when we looking to build identify these spaces trends that in we our could high start to school with our new build guidance those resource opportunities center. of what we call MTSS, Sometimes kind of we might need to small group intervene in these counseling moments, support. and just They'll providing a typically take space place anywhere is from not 6 enough. to 8 We need weeks to provide with our skills, psychologists, strategies, social workers, and or guidance interventions. counselors. Well, And then work when we directly with identify students trends that in we can start areas to that they may be build struggling those with. opportunities. This is something that's what we call ever-changing and MTSS, developing, kind of because we like to small look group at the counseling students to support. help us They'll know typically what take is place it that anywhere they from need 6 to to 8 8 weeks with our At times, it might mean that you have an executive functioning small group. Well, that they work directly on, with where students different people in can areas that they nominate, may or be even struggling parents with. might say, my This is child's something that's struggling in this ever-changing area, and developing, and the because we different like to look at professionals the will put students small to groups together help to be able us to know provide what some is it skill that they need instruction support on with. that topic. At times, Same it might thing mean can that be you have an true for things like executive functioning testing small anxiety group and that they work test-taking on, where skills. different people can Sometimes we have nominate, or things even like parents friendship might say, groups my that child might might be be struggling created, in this or a area, boys group that and might be the different created professionals for will put in students that small might need groups a together little to be able to extra provide some support during skill these instruction unstructured on time that periods. topic. And it's Same here thing where we can can utilize utilize those those interventions and interventions and strategy and skill-based skill-based approach to be able to support sometimes we have students in that things model. like friendship groups that We might also be created, have or in a the, boys definitely at group the, that might be created the middle and for secondary students that level, might need a little extra new support entrant groups during these we have a lot of unstructured time students who move periods. into the district And it's here where and we can sometimes they may be utilize those moving interventions and in middle strategy school and high skill-based school. approach So we to be do able have to new support entrant students groups in where that our model. school social workers and guidance We counselors also will come have together definitely and at work the with our the middle and to secondary A, level, connect them to peers, new entrant and groups. B, help We have them a lot of connect to one students who another move into the to help them district here. navigate And being in a sometimes new they may be space, moving in a in new place. in middle school and high school. Also, we have do new provide entrant lots of groups different where our school opportunities social workers where we and can guidance provide counselors parents will some come feedback together on what to and do work and with how to our new support their entrants to students A, connect in them different to times of peers, life, and our B, help them PTAs connect to one organize another and to help them provide navigate different being in areas a of new support space, and we
and
do
a new
have a
place.
partnership with Northwell Health. that
Also, we
provides
do
free
provide
parent
lots of different
workshop
opportunities
sessions.
where we could provide
Not only
parents
do
some
we target our
feedback on
support
what to
during
do
the
and how to
school day,
support
but we
their
also
students
provide
in different
opportunities
types
of
of life.
after-school
Our PTAs
experiences where
organize
sometimes
and
kids
provide
just
different
don't know where
areas
to
of
go,
support
or don't feel
and we do have a
confident or
partnership
comfortable
with
enough to
Northwell
join an
Health
activity.
that provides
As
free
you heard from
parent
Mr.
workshop
Steinberg,
sessions.
we have a plethora
Not
of
only do we
options for
target our
students,
support during the school
but
day, but
sometimes
we
might
also
need to
provide
create more.
opportunities of
So what do we do when that happens?
experiences
We'd be able
where
to figure out
sometimes
those things
kids
that might be
just
missing
don't know where
and
to
offer
go or don't
opportunities
feel
to build
confident
new
or
programs.
comfortable enough to
Some
join an
examples of that
activity.
can include
As you heard from Mr.
more
Steinberg, we have
specialized
a
clubs for
plethora
students who
of
struggle with
options for
social
students.
skills. but
like sometimes
serendipity or
dancing days.
So what do we do when that happens?
We might have
We'd be
students who
able
want to have a
figure out those
cultural
things that
connection
might be missing
and make
offer
different
opportunities to
multicultural
build new
clubs
programs.
or Unite Club.
Some
or
examples of that
GSA.
can include
There's
more
peers reaching out
specialized
clubs
where
for
we have
students who
peers
struggle
that
with
come
social
together
skills,
to support
like
other peers.
serendipity or
In addition to that,
dancing
we have a lot of
days.
buddy programs and mentorship
We might have students who want to have a
where
cultural
students
connection
are trained
and make
to
to
work
work different
with
multicultural
students
clubs
that maybe have
or
more
Unite
neurodivergent
Club
needs
or GSA.
In addition
There's
to that,
peers
as you
reaching
heard,
out
a
club,
quarter of
where
our
we have
population
peers that
participates
come
in
together
sports.
to support
There are some
other
students who might not
peers.
ever have that
In
opportunity.
addition to that, we have a lot
You've
of
heard
buddy
me speak a
programs
few
and
times
mentorship
about the
partnerships,
inclusive
where
sport
students are
opportunities that
trained
you guys
to
have
work
been super
with students that maybe have more
and
neurodivergent
allowed
needs.
us to create here in
In addition
district.
to that,
we
as you
have
heard, a
Challenger
quarter
and
of our
Unified
population
Sports.
participates in
Challenger at the middle
sports.
school level.
There are some
Unified
students
at
who
the
might not
high
ever
school
have that
level. And
opportunity.
each year,
You've heard me
I have
speak
come
a few
to you
times
to
about
share
the
the excitement and the
sport
additional
opportunities
offerings
that you
we're
guys
able
have
to
been
provide in these
super
areas.
supportive
and
able to do that again
allowed
tonight.
us to create
So
here in
we've had
district.
Unified
We have
bowling and
Challenger
basketball
and
at the
Unified
high
Sports,
school, which is an
Challenger at the middle
inclusive
school
sport.
level, Unified at the
We also have
high school
Challenger,
level. And
where
each
we've
year,
had
I have come
track,
to you to share the
basketball.
excitement and the
We created
additional
cheer
offerings we're
last
able to
year
provide
for
in
a
these
student who
areas.
wanted it. I'm
And
able
this
to do
year,
that
we're
again
adding
tonight.
soccer to the mix.
So we've had Unified
we are
bowling and
consistently
basketball at the high
looking
school, which
to
is an
find
inclusive
those
sport.
ways to make sure
We also
can
have Challenger,
create different
where we've
opportunities
had
for students
track,
depending upon
basketball.
what might be presented
We
to us as
created
a
cheer
community.
last year for a student who wanted it, and this year we're adding soccer.
As a
to the
result of your
mix.
continued
So
investment, we also
are
have
consistently
opportunities
looking
and
to
times
find
where more
those ways to make
individualized
sure
and
we can
specialized
create
support is
different
required.
opportunities for
So,
students,
thanks to
depending
your
upon what
support,
might be
we've
presented to
actually
us
been
as a
able to
community.
increase our mental health support capacity with different areas of expertise.
As a result of your
that have
continued
been added
investment, we
to
also
our staff.
have opportunities and times
Up on the
where more
screen, you'll see the number
individualized
of
and
individuals that
specialized
we
support
have
is
within the
required.
district that
So,
actually live
thanks
in our
to your
mental health
support,
realm.
we've
Number of
actually been able to
psychologists,
increase
social
our
workers,
mental health
guidance
support
counselors, and
capacity
behavior
with
consultants.
different areas of
And
expertise
the start
that
of
have
my
been
fourth
added
year right
to our
now,
staff.
every single year,
Up on
that
the
I have
screen,
been
you'll
here,
see the
we have
number of
added staff
individuals
members
that
to
we
these
have
areas.
within the district
We've added
that
behavior
actually live in our
consultants since I've
mental
been
health
onboarded.
realm.
We've
Number of
added
psychologists,
upwards of
social
7
workers,
social
guidance
workers since
counselors,
I've been
and behavior
onboarded,
consultants.
additional guidance
And
counselors within
the
the
start
past
of my
few years,
fourth
and
year
this
right
past
now,
year, we've also
every
increased
single
our
year
psychologist
that I have been here,
capacity.
we have added staff
This
members
is
to these
key
areas.
because
We've
there
added
are
behavior
times that
consultants since I've been
whole
onboarded,
building, we've
and
added
small group instruction
upwards of 7
continues to
social
not be
workers
enough
since
for
I've been
students.
onboarded.
That's
Additional
when more
guidance counselors
targeted
within the past few
individualized
years,
support
and this
is
past year,
required.
we've
And
also
in order to do
increased
that
our
work, we need to
psychologist
ensure that we have the staff
capacity.
that are trained to do
This
that.
is key because
They can
there
do
are
things
times
like
that
MTSS
whole
build and
building
support our
and small group
MTSS
instruction
counseling needs,
continues to not
as
be
well as
enough
do
for
different types of
students.
crisis intervention
That's when
as
more
needed and
targeted,
required.
individualized support is
Training
required.
for
And
this
in order to do that
starts
work,
immediately,
we need to
and
ensure
it
that
is
we have the
key,
staff that are
because it's
trained
not
to do
just
that.
these individuals
They can
that are
do things
capturing and
like
supporting
MTSS
students.
build and
It's the
support our
everyday
MTSS
interactions
counseling
that
needs,
students have with our
as
staff
well as do
members
different
and our
types of
faculty
crisis
across
intervention
all of
as
our
needed and
buildings
required.
that we need to make sure
Training
they have a
for
keen
this
eye to
starts
identify
immediately,
when a
and it
student
is
might be
key,
struggling.
because it's not just
This
these
training
individuals
happens
that
before
are
school
capturing and
even
supporting
starts.
students.
Our mental health
It's the
providers
everyday
do mental
interactions
health
that students
awareness
have with our
workshops
staff
with
members and our
entire
faculty across
faculty
all
in
of our
each of their
buildings
individual
that we
buildings
need to make sure
before
they have a
school
keen
starts.
eye to
In
identify
addition to that,
when
our
a student
monitors
might be
and support
struggling.
staff
Have
this
this series of
training
trainings
happens
that they
before school
undergo
even
to be able to
starts.
support
Our mental
students
health
in different
providers
ways.
do mental
These
health
trainings can
awareness
include
workshops
working with
our
neurodivergent
entire
students,
faculty in
managing
each of
and
the individual
supporting
buildings
conflict
before school
and
starts.
creating a positive
In addition to that, our
social
monitors
environment
and
for
support
students.
staff
Have
this
this
series
type
of
of training
trainings
is
that they
constant,
undergo
ongoing,
to be able to
and when we
support students
identify
in
new
different
areas
ways.
of training
These
need,
trainings
we
can
embed it.
include working with
So these are
neurodivergent
areas that we
students,
continue to grow and
managing and
develop,
supporting
and continue to provide
conflict,
opportunities
and
of
creating
training
a
to the staff
positive
members that are working with
social
our students
environment
every
for
day.
students.
In an
This
effort
type
of training is
preparation for this
constant,
presentation.
ongoing,
And
Mr.
when we
Steinberg and I
identify
met with
new
our
areas of
principals,
training need,
and we actually
embed
learned
it.
of a story of
So
where
these are
this
areas
was
that we
happening
continue
in
to
action.
grow and develop.
Where just
and
that
continue
week,
to provide
one of the school
opportunities of
monitors
training to the
went
staff
to the
members that are
guidance
working with our
department
students every
and
day.
spoke about a student
In
they
an
observed
effort of
struggling
preparation
during a lunch
for this
period.
presentation,
That
Mr. Steinberg
student
and I met
was
with
then
our
able to
principals.
get different
And
ways
we
of
actually
support
learned of a
just
story of
because
where
we're
this
able
was
to
happening in
identify
action.
an
Where
opportunity
just that
of
week,
need. One of the school monitors
that happens consistently
went
in
to
our
the
building,
guidance department
and it is something
and
that we
spoke about a
continue to
student they
look
observed
to
struggling
grow
during
and
a lunch
enhance
period.
as time goes on.
That student was then able to get different ways of support.
One of the things I do want to
just
point
because
out,
we
and
were
I think
able
is
to
extremely
identify
important, is
an
we
opportunity
can't
of
always do
need.
this work alone.
That
We need
happens
to have
consistently in our
partnerships.
buildings.
There are times
and it is something
students
that we
don't want to
continue
share
to look
their
to
concerns.
grow,
There
and
are
in
times
times
that
that
students
students
don't
don't
want
want people to know that they may be struggling. but they may be
One of the things I do want to point out, and I
sharing
think
that
is
feeling
extremely
with family,
important,
is
we
it's
can't
through
always do this
connections
work
with
alone.
families.
We need to have
that we
partnerships.
can provide support
There are
to
times
students
when we
don't
don't
want to
know
share
that
their
there's a struggle
concerns.
that's happening.
There are times that
So
students
we don't want
urge
people to know that they may be
use
struggling,
us as a school
but they
system
may be
to
feel
support
comfortable
you
coming
when that's
home
happening.
and sharing that
Reach
feeling
out to
with
your
family.
building so that they
It's
can
through
help you
connections
navigate
with
what's
families
going on within the
that
school
we
day,
can provide
and if
support to
additional
students
support
when
is
we
required,
don't know
potentially
that there's a
outside of the
struggle that's
school
happening.
day. And if that does
So we
happen,
urge
you can
people
see we
to
have
please
community partnerships.
use us as a school system
Those
to
community
support
partnerships
you
can
when that's
include
happening.
wraparound services
Reach out to
that
your
are mental
building
health
so that they can
professionals to
help
support
you
families
navigate
in securing
what's going on within the school day.
That can
and if
include
additional
Central Nassau
support
guidance
is
and
required,
counseling services
potentially
as well as
outside of the
SPOA.
school day.
And
if that
we
does
do as a
happen,
district have a
you can see
partnership
we
with
have
Northwell
community
Health.
partnerships.
And that Northwell
Those
Health
community
can do
partnerships can
many
include
different
wraparound
things,
services
including
that are mental
training
health
for our
professionals
staff,
to support
as well
families
as
in
provide
securing.
in-the-moment crisis supports
That
for
can
students
include
that need
Central
them.
Nassau guidance and
Lastly, they
counseling
can also
services as
connect
well as SPOA,
our families to
and we
care
do as a district
if
have a
outside
partnership with
support if
Northwell
required.
Health.
And that
it's key
Northwell
to
Health
work
can
collaboratively
do
with the school
many
system,
different
so
things,
whatever support's happening on the
including training
outside
for our
can be
staff,
supported and
as well as
reinforced
provide
both while their
in-the-moment
students
crisis
are here in
supports for
school.
students that need them. Lastly, they can also connect our families
So
to care
it's important for
if
me
we're
to
outside
conclude by
support
saying
if
robust
required.
research has
And that
found
it's key
that
to
a
work
school
collaboratively
sense of
with the school
belonging
system
is
so
related
whatever
to the students'
support's happening on the
overall social and
outside
emotional well-being
can be
can be
inclusion,
and reinforced
engagement,
both while their
motivation
students
to
are here in
be
school.
part of school, and their overall educational outcomes. It also
So
mediates
it's
the
important for me to
association
conclude
between
by saying
bullying
robust
and
research
mental
has
health
found
difficulties.
that a school sense of
This
belonging
is
what we
related
do.
to the students'
It's
overall
what we do
social
on a
and emotional
day-to-day
well-being,
basis, and it's what we're
inclusion,
demonstrating to you
engagement,
tonight.
motivation
Adolescents
to be
and
part
young
of
adults
school,
who have a
and their
strong
overall
sense of
educational
belonging to their
outcomes. community
It
will be
also
more
mediates
resilient
the
during times of
association
difficulty.
between bullying
They learn those
and
skills
mental
to be able
health
to do that
difficulties.
work.
This is
why
what
we
we
focus
do.
on belonging.
It's what we do on a
and
day-to-day
come together
basis,
as a
and it's what we're
community to
demonstrating to
address
you
the
tonight.
ever-changing needs of the
Adolescents
students
and
and
young
young
adults
adults who have a strong
We look
sense
forward
of
to
belonging to
continuing
their
to
community,
enhance our
will be more
practices
resilient during as times these of opportunities difficulty.
extend
They
in
learn
this
those
facet
skills
of-
to be able
of
to
school
do that
district.
work. These
This
are
is
not
why
just
we
additional
focus on
programs.
belonging
They're not just
and
additional
come together as a
experiences that
community
we're
to
building.
address the ever-changing
It's a
needs of the
system-wide
students
statement
that they present.
that all students belong. We look forward to
Thank you.
continuing to enhance our practices as these opportunities extend in this facet of the school district. These are not just additional
Thank you, Ms.
programs,
Goldthwait
they're
and
not
Mr.
just
Steinberg, for
additional
the,
experiences that we're
comprehensive
building.
presentation. I definitely,
It's a
learned a
system-wide
lot of,
statement
new
that
information
all
here.
students
So
belong.
thank you again.
Thank
And at
you.
this point, are there any questions from the board for Ms. Edmondson? Okay, Mr. Goldthwait. Thank you, Ms. Goldthwait and Mr. Steinberg, for the comprehensive presentation.
Thank you very much for
I
the
definitely
presentation.
learned a lot of new information here, so thank you again. And at
So,
this
okay.
point, are there any questions
So where to
from
begin, but
the
like,
board
we
for?
talked a little bit
okay,
about
Ms.
connecting
Edmondson?
relationships.
Then Mr. Goldthwait.
And we also talked about clubs and things like that. Thank you very
In
much
the
for the
elementary
presentation.
school, they do have some lunch clubs. In the high school, they
So,
do
okay.
clubs after school.
So where to
because
begin,
it's
but
not
like,
by grade.
we talked a
In
little
the
bit
middle school,
about connecting relationships.
the things that you talked about, and then we also talked about skills and small groups
clubs
and things like that.
that.
In the elementary school, they do have some
I'm not
lunch
sure,
clubs.
but I don't think that
In
they
the
have
high
like that
school, they do
organic
clubs
way
after
to
school
meet
because
each
it's
other
not by
over a
grade.
common bond.
In the
Is
middle
there a way
school,
to
possibly
the
look
things
at
that you talked about and
some
the,
sort of club like that, about
stock
skills
market,
and
cooking,
small
whatever it
groups
is,
and
like
notes
that's
on
things
a
like that.
rotation so that kids start to connect with kids of similar interests that may
I'm
not
not
have
sure,
organically
but I
met
don't think that they
before, but
have
are
like that
struggling
organic way
to
to
figure
meet
out
each
where to sit
other
at
over
lunch
a
or to
common
find new
bond.
people,
Is there a way
or
to
are just
possibly
struggling in
look
general?
at
I just feel like that lunch
some sort of
time
club like I don't I mean
is a
stock
good
market,
time,
cooking,
whatever it
can
is, like
change a
that
child's
rotation
entire
so that
day.
kids start to
And
connect
finding
with
their
kids of
people
similar
and we can
interests
help
that may not have organically
facilitate
met
that.
before.
Maybe they
but are
don't need
struggling
social skills, but they're having
figure out
trouble
where to
in
sit at
general,
lunch
but
or
just
to
somewhere
find
the,
new
the
people
middle or
of
are just
road
struggling
that
in
need
general.
help. I just feel like that
figuring out where they belong
lunchtime
as things change.
is a good time,
Can change a
the
child's
other thing
entire
about
day.
and finding
The
their
lunch,
people, and if we can help
the
facilitate that,
training of
maybe
staff
they
and
don't need
faculty,
social
which is
skills, but they're
great
having trouble
because
in general, but just
identifying
somewhere,
the middle
problems, seeing
of
them
the
in
road
real
that needs
time,
help
helping to
figure figuring out where they
constructively solve
belong as
problems in
things
real
change.
time are really
The other thing
necessary,
about
and I just wanted to see,
the
are
lunch,
the trainings that were done this year, are these
the
new and
the
expanded
training
from last
of
year? Is
staff
it based
and
on
faculty,
feedback?
which
How
is
do we?
great, because
How do we
identifying the
decide what
problems,
trainings that
seeing
we're
them
going
in
to
real
do,
time,
helping to
and,
constructively solve problems in real time,
that's
are
that's
really
really it for now.
necessary?
So
And I
I'll
just
I'll
wanted
take them
to
in two
see, are
separate
these the
kind
trainings
of
that were done
buckets
this year,
here.
are they new and expanded
So the
from
first
last
one
year?
is
it based
about
on feedback? How do we-
clubs during lunch you're asking
how do we
about, instead of
decide
it
what
just being
trainings that
after
we're
school,
going to do?
correct?
And So specifically for the middle school, I just feel like during lunch, there are options. Like there are
So
clubs
I'll
in the
take them
elementary
in
school
two
that are
separate
during lunch
kind
that
of
help
buckets
kids
here.
meet each other over a
So the
shared
first one
interest.
is
There are
about
clubs after school in the high school
clubs
that make
during
that help
lunch you're
kids meet
asking
each other
about
over the same
instead of it
interest. In
just
the
being
middle
after school,
There's a little bit
correct?
after school, but lunch is when
specifically for
it's
the middle
most
school, I
difficult
just
for
feel
a
like
lot of
during
kids,
lunch
and there
they-
are options. Like
it
there
would
are
help
clubs in
to-
the
and
elementary
since
school
it's
that are during
by
lunch
grade,
that help kids
is it
meet each
something
other
that we
over
could
a shared
consider to
interest. There are
organically
clubs
bring
after
kids
school in the
together
high
extra?
school that help kids
So
meet
it
each
is
other
a
over the same
topic that
interest.
has
In the
come
middle
up.
school,
I
there's
know,
a
and it
little
is
bit
something that
after
the
school,
principals
but
were
lunch is when
kind of
it's the
talking
most
about a little
difficult
bit
for a
about
lot
how
of
do you make
kids,
this a
and
possibility.
it would help
There are some
to- and since
challenges
it's
with
by
doing
grade,
clubs
is it something
during
that we could
the
consider to
lunchtime, and
organically
that's
bring
a
kids
lot of
together
times
that are
clubs
struggling?
tend to be more.
So it is a
kind of
topic
6th, 7th,
that has
8th
come
grade
up.
opportunities.
I know
for
it
all
is
to
something that
participate,
the
so if it's
principals
just
were
a
kind
small
of-
pocket.
kind of talking
You don't
about a little
necessarily
bit about
have the
how
depth
do you
and
make
breadth
this
that
a
you'd like to have
possibility
when you're creating a club
There are
like
some
that.
challenges.
However,
which
I think
doing-
it's really
with doing
more about
clubs,
creating
during
more
the
structured
lunch
opportunities and
a lot of times
experiences
clubs
for
tend
kids,
to be
and then
more
inviting them
kind of
to
6th, 7th,
participate
8th
in
grade
those
opportunities
things.
for all to
That started a
participate.
little
So
bit
if
with
it's
just a
just
small
free-
pocket.
tech-free
You don't
Tuesdays
necessarily
last
have the
year,
depth and
where
breadth that
we
you'd
were
like to have
creating
when you're
things
creating a
like,
club like
if
that.
you were in the
However, I
hallways here
think
in
it's really more
Southwoods, you
about
saw a lot of chess
creating
tables
more
outside where
structured
students might have been playing
opportunities and
chess, opportunities
experiences
of
for
different
kids,
games and
and then
activities to be
inviting
there.
them to
It is a
participate in those
continued
conversations.
That
Especially
started a
now
little
that we
bit
have
with our
students
tech-free-
more available
tech-free
to wanting to
Tuesdays
work
last
together
year,
and
where
collaborate
we
together
were
and
creating
in that
things
shared
like,
space,
if you were in the
where and
hallways
how
here in
can we
Southwoods,
create
you saw a lot of
opportunities
chess
for
tables
connection
outside where students
So
might have been playing
it is
chess,
something we are
opportunities of different
exploring and
games and
continuing to
activities
look
to be
into
there.
to see
It
is
is
this
a
a way that we
continued
can
conversation,
enhance
especially
just
now that we
natural
have students
connections
more
kids may
available to
have by
wanting to
finding
work
similar
together
interests
and
as
collaborate
to what you're
together and
describing
in
here.
that shared
Not necessarily
space,
that there's a
where
skill
and how
deficit,
can we
because that's
create
a much
opportunities
easier
for
way for us to
connections.
identify
So
a need and
it
target
is
the
something
need,
we are
provide the
exploring and
intervention,
continuing
and
to
we
look
build
into
those
to
groups
see,
for kids.
is this a way
How
that
do
we
you
can
have
enhance
groups that students
just
can then kind of
natural
connect to?
connections
I think
kids
is
may
really
have
what you're
by
looking
finding
for,
similar
and those are
interests
definitely
as to
things
what
that
you're
we're starting to
describing here.
engage in more
Not necessarily that
conversations
there's a
about,
skill
and
deficit,
looking
because
to
that's a much
enhance
easier
as
way
time
for
goes
us to
on,
identify a
to see
need
how
and target
and where
the
can we
need,
provide
provide
the
that thoughtfully
intervention,
so it
and we
makes sense
build
for
those
students,
groups for kids,
and that we're
how do
doing
you
exactly
have
what
groups
you're
that
trying
students
to
can then
kind of
connect to. I
kind
think
of
is really
create
what
the
you're
point
looking
with.
for, and those
Sometimes
are definitely
kids
things
just
that
need
we're starting to
new
engage in
opportunities
more
to figure out how to meet a new
conversations
front,
about,
and
they
looking
don't
to
know that,
enhance
especially when they're coming
as
into
time goes
6th
on,
grade,
to see
you have 7
how and
elementary
where
schools
can we
that are
create
coming
that
into,
thoughtfully
one
so
of
it
the
makes
two
sense for
buildings
students,
that are our middle schools
and that we're
here.
doing
How
exactly
do we
what you're
help
trying
them
to
kind of create
interact
with these peers?
Sometimes
How do we help
kids
them
just
find
need
new
new
opportunities
opportunities
to figure out how to meet
so
a new
that
friend?
is something that I
they
know
don't
we
know
want
them,
to
especially
continue
when
to
they're coming
engage
into
and
6th
definitely
grade.
are
You have 7
brainstorming
elementary
how
schools
can we
that are
make
coming
that
into,
be something that's
one
a
of little
two
bit
buildings
more
that are our middle
authentic.
schools
So it's
here.
happening
How do
more
we help
naturally
them,
in those spaces and those environments instead of feeling more
interact with these peers?
prescribed.
How do we help
and
them
kind of
find new
forced
connections?
upon? Because that's really
so
the
that
piece
is
too,
something that I know
you're
we
in
want
that
to
continue
developmental
to
phase in
engage,
middle
and
school
definitely
where
are
kind of kids wanna
brainstorming
be
how
able to
can we
be
make that
independent
be
but don't
something
really know
that's
how
a
to be
little bit
independent.
more
So it's
authentic.
giving
So it's
that
happening more
opportunity of
naturally in
space
those
for them
spaces
to
and
do
those
those
environments
things.
instead of
It
feeling
is
more
something
prescribed
that we will
and
continue to look
kind of
into, 'cause
forced
I think it's a
upon.
great point.
Because that's really the piece too.
The
Training on the
you're in
other
that
side of
developmental
things,
phase in
that
middle
has
school
actually
where
grown
kinda
over
kids wanna
time.
be able to
A lot
be
of it might
independent
come
but don't
from
really know how to be
an identified
independent.
area of
So it's
need,
giving
where
that
maybe we're hearing
opportunity
different
of
feedback
space
about
for them
one
to do those
consistent
things.
concern that might be coming up,
It is
and then we
something that we will
identify,
continue
well,
to
what
look into,
training
'cause I
do we
think
need
it's a
to
great
put in
point.
place to identify that area the of training on the concern. other side of things. So one that such has example actually can be, grown over time. how can you a lot of it might come be able to from help an students identified there area maybe maybe in where conflict, and maybe what are we're ways that hearing you can different appropriately feedback
interact
about
with that?
one
How do you
consistent you help
concern that might be coming up, and then we identify, well, what training do we need to put in place to identify that area
which
of concern?
unfortunately you see at
So one
times,
such
especially at
example
that
could
middle
be,
school level.
you know, how can
So
you
how do we help
be able to
provide
help
the
students
language
if
and
they're
opportunities
maybe
to
in
create
conflict,
those
and what are ways that you can
So
appropriately
some
interact with
are
that?
new trainings.
How do you help
Some have trainings that
promote
our staff
inclusivity
have
and not
always been a part of.
exclusionary
For example,
practices,
the
which
training on working
unfortunately
with
you
different
see at
neurodivergent
times,
students
especially at
actually
that
came
middle school
out
level.
of. So how do
parent
we
feedback
help
and
provide the
SEPTA,
language and
and then
opportunities to
became more
create those
school-wide
spaces?
approach to be
So
able to provide that
some
training.
are new
So,
trainings. Some have trainings
it comes
that
from different
our
ways
staff
and
have
different
always
reasons,
been
and it's
a
something
part
that we're
of.
always
For
looking to
example,
develop and enhance.
the training on working with different neurodivergent students actually came out of parent feedback and SEPTA, and then
Thank
became
you.
more of a school-wide approach to be able
Obviously,
to provide that training.
I know
So
that's a lot, and this is
it
only
comes
the
from
tip of the
different ways
iceberg.
and different
I know there's
reasons,
so
and
much
it's
more
something
that
that we're
goes into
always
this,
looking
but I
to
do have
develop
a
and enhance.
somewhat narrow question, an ice cube, right? Like, just a point about the lunch. You talked about the nooks, you talked about the workshops, and I'm wondering, obviously, is this a space issue that we don't have enough space? And obviously, space is coming over the next few years, but I do have, as of right now, somewhat narrow question, an ice cube. Is that the issue with having just a point about the lunch? You talked about the nooks, you talked about the workshops during lunch, or is it a demand issue where there's not enough people that even know about it, that we don't have or that are interested to do it? And obviously, space is coming
So I
over the
think
next few years,
I would
but
say
as of right
it's
now,
a little
we
bit
don't
more
necessarily
about
have it.
a new
Is
way
that
of
the
looking
issue
to
with
create
having room
opportunities
for the nooks
kids.
and the
when we
workshops
can
and the
look for
other items
those,
kids can
what's
go
available
to
for us to
during
do.
lunch? Or is it a demand issue where
So
there's
the
not enough
nooks
people that
we
either
are
know about
created,
it
it's
or
finding
that
what's
are
an available
interested to
space
do
within the
it?
building during that
So
period.
I
It might
think
change in
I
different
would
periods
say
for the
it's
kids
a little
because
bit more
one classroom might be open
about
one
a new
period
way
and
of
another
looking
classroom
to
might be
create
open the next period.
opportunities
So
for
it's not
kids,
the
and when we can
same
look
for
for
each
those,
period.
what's available for us to do.
And it is something that
so
the
the
administration
nooks
and
that
staff
we are
look
created,
to
it's
seek
finding
out
what's an
where do
available
I have
space
space
within the
and then how do we
building
create
during
those
that period.
opportunities
It might
once that
change in
space
different
is for the
periods
kids
for
because one
and
classroom might be
it's- I
open
would
one
say it's
period and
not,
another classroom might be
a
open the next
manpower
period.
piece.
So
We
it's
have
not the
teachers
same
that are there
for
to
each
support
period.
our students
And it
during
is something
the
that
cafeteria.
the
We have
administration
monitors that are there to
look
support
to
students
seek
in the
out
cafeteria.
where do I
So
have
it would
space
just
and then
be
how do we
if we
create
have a
those
small group going
opportunities
to a
once that
different
space
space,
is there.
you have an individual that goes to
And
that same
I would
space
say
as
it's
well.
not a
So that
manpower
is a-
piece. We
a
have
little bit of a
teachers that
newer
are
way
there
of
to
making
support
sure that we
our
provide smaller
students during
opportunities
the
for students, and
cafeteria.
it's
We have
something
our
that we've been
monitors that are
talking
there
about
to
more
support students in the
especially as we
cafeteria.
were
So it would just
leading
be
toward the
if we
idea
have a
that
small group
phones
going
wouldn't
to a
be
different
used or
space, you
technology
have an
wouldn't be
individual
used.
that
How do we
goes to that
create
same
those
space as
opportunities
well.
for students to have
So that
those
is
smaller,
a little bit of a newer way of
experiences
making
and
sure that we
activities
provide
to help
smaller
facilitate
opportunities
social
for students,
engagement.
and it's something that we've
In
been
the high
talking about
school,
more and
we're creating those
especially
spaces
as we
right
were
now because
leading
that's
toward
something
the
that is a
idea that
challenge.
phones wouldn't be used or
And
technology
space
wouldn't
is a
be
challenge
used.
in
How do we
high school,
create
hence
those opportunities
why we are
for students
creating
to
and
have
looking to
those
build
smaller,
a
more
space where that
structured
can be
experiences
something
and
that students can
activities
go
to
help
So
facilitate
our
social engagement.
larger
In the
wellness
high
space
school,
in general
we're
is
creating
going to
those
have multiple
spaces right now
spaces for
because that's
students to
something that is a
engage
challenge.
with, both smaller and larger.
Space
If
is
the
a challenge in the
cafeteria
high
happens
school,
to be
hence
too much,
why we're
and/or if
creating
they
and
just
looking
need
to
smaller
build
spaces
a
to go to be
space
able
where
to
that can
engage
be something
socially.
that
So
students
that
can
is
go
our
to.
focus
So
in
our
the upcoming
larger
year,
wellness space
at the
in
high school
general
setting.
is going to have multiple spaces for students to engage with,
Are there
both
any more
smaller
questions?
and larger, if the cafeteria happens to be too much, and/or if they just need smaller spaces to go.
Thank
to
you
be
so
able to
much. It was
engage
such a great
socially.
presentation.
So that is our focus.
I just kind
in
of
the
wanted to
upcoming
piggyback on what Lynn
year,
said a little bit.
at the high school setting.
Because SIAS is so
Are there more
large, which
questions?
is great because there's so many kids to pick from. I think there's a lot of kids who wind up getting lost, who
Thank you
aren't
so much. It was
necessarily
such a great
struggling with
presentation.
social skills, but
I
who
just
are
kinda wanted
lost,
to piggyback
nevertheless,
on what Lynn
that
said a
they,
little bit.
for whatever reason, haven't found their group
because
of friends
SIAS
or don't have those
is so
connections.
large, which is great
So when
because
there's
you
so
were,
many kids
talking
to
about
pick
all
from,
those
I think there's a
different
lot of kids who
opportunities,
wind up
or
getting
even the
lost,
opportunity for
who
kids,
aren't
you
necessarily
mentioned
struggling with social
programs,
skills,
and,
but who are lost,
like partnerships and those
nevertheless,
kinds
that
of
they,
things. I don't know
for
if that
whatever
was
reason,
middle
haven't
school
found their group of
specific,
friends or don't have those
um,
connections, or if
so
they
when
do
you
that in
were,
high school as well.
talking about all those different opportunities,
or
the kids
even the
know
opportunity
about
for
it,
kids,
because
you mentioned
just
mentor
from,
programs,
and,
and from the community, when people
like
stop
partnerships
there's
and those
definitely
kinds of things.
I don't know if
portion
that
of
was
children
children
who
who struggle making
specific,
connections and who are looking,
or if they do that in the high
for
school
ways
as well,
to meet people and
how-
to connect, and
how would
haven't just
the
for
kids
whatever
know
reason,
about it?
because haven't had
just
that opportunity
from,
or did,
you know,
and
hearing from the
and they don't
community, when
now.
people stop
There's a lot of
there's
different
definitely
fact patterns
a
of
portion
kids
of children
struggling,
who
but
struggle making
I just, and
connections
also
and
knowing
who
about the
are
mentorship
looking
or partner
for
opportunities,
ways
because
to
that
meet
sounds like a
people
great
and to connect
program
and
haven't,
also-
just for whatever reason, haven't had that opportunity
I
or
guess two
did,
different ways. There are
and they don't
structured
now. There's a
examples
lot
of
of
that,
different
and then things that have been
fact
coming and
patterns
growing
of
over time.
kids
In the
struggling,
high school,
but
there's the peers
I
as
just, and
leaders,
also
there's the
knowing
peers
about
reaching out. There
the
are more
mentorship or partner
structured
opportunities, because that
and
sounds
some
like a
co-taught
great
opportunities too, where
program
some of our
also.
students work collaboratively with some of our needier students. So a lot of that tends to be embedded. There are structured
when it comes
examples
to
of
like
that,
the buddy
and then
programs
things that
in
have
the
been
middle
coming and
school,
growing
it
over
is a little
time.
bit
In the
newer,
high
and a
school,
lot
there's
of
the
it
peers
is
as
coming
leaders,
from, like,
there's the peers reaching
staff
out. There are more
recommendations,
structured opportunities. We have identifying students that demonstrate work collaboratively with some of our needier students, and finding
so a lot of that
opportunities
tends
of
to
where
be
maybe they
embedded.
need to be a role model
When
to
it comes to
others.
like the buddy
So
programs
that
in the
is
middle
something
school,
that
it is a
has
little
kind of
bit
been
newer, and a
developing
lot of
over
it is
time,
coming from
and is something
staff
that is available. I
recommendations.
think what I wanted
and
and
flip a little
identifying
bit,
students
and
that
you're gonna laugh at me,
demonstrate
I think a little bit
respect,
right now, is
empathy,
I don't like to
and
look at
finding
this as these
opportunities of
students
where
are
maybe they
lost.
need to be
They're
a
not
role model
lost.
to others.
They just
So
haven't
that
figured
is
out
something
the
that has
comfort
kind of been
and the
developing
space
over
to be
time,
able to engage.
and is something that
So
is
when
available.
that
I think what I
happens,
wanted,
I would like to say,
flip
look
a
at it
little
through
bit,
that
tiered
and
approach
you're gonna
through
laugh at me, I
MTSS.
think a little
We have
bit
a
right now
lot
is,
of staff members
I don't
that
like
are
to
here
look at
to
this as
support
these students are lost.
So
They're not
first
lost.
prong,
They just haven't figured
if you look
out
at
the
tier one,
comfort and the
reach out to your
space
guidance
to be able to
counselor.
engage.
That's a great way
So
for
when that
families
happens,
to feel
I would like to
connected
say,
the
look at it
school,
through
to
that
share
tiered
some of their
approach
concerns
through
about what
MTSS.
might be going
We
on
have
with the
a lot
student.
of staff
And then in a
members that are
very
here to
organic
support
way, a guidance
students.
counselor
So
can help maybe make those connections about, let's look at the club list here. Is there anything that looks interesting to you? So having that facilitated families to feel connected to the school, to share some of their concerns about what might be going on with the students. And sometimes in a very organic way, a guidance counselor can help maybe make those connections about, and then allowing the individuals that are in the building to support students. So having that facilitated partner, and sometimes that's hard because we want to give our students, as a parent, and I want to give my children the ability to be able to figure out how to navigate that on their own. Many of us are probably used to hearing the individuals that are in the building to support students do their magic in those moments. But we need to also recognize, and sometimes that's hard because we want to give our students, as a parent, I want to give my children the ability to be able to figure out how to navigate that on their own. So how can we? Many of us are probably used to hearing, "Don't call the school. I don't want you to call school. Don't ask for this. I don't want help." Build the courage. But we need to also recognize that sometimes students, while they may want to be independent during these developmental years, so it does take time, it does take effort, and these are not quick. So how can we do that collaboratively in safe conversations that have to happen? And sometimes, and then the first try might not work. To not be try again. So, and that's the hard part. It's building that frustration tolerance up of knowing that maybe the first time I try to engage in something, it might not be the right fit for me, but it doesn't mean I shouldn't stop that have to happen. And how can we build that kind of cheerleading group around a child so they might mean we need to try again. So, and that's the hard part. It's building that frustration tolerance up of knowing that maybe the first time I try to engage in something, it might not be the right fit for me, but it doesn't mean I shouldn't stop trying.
This is just a quick question for the middle school,
cheerleading
for
group
the
around a child,
lunchtime workshops or lunch nooks. How would children who, let's say, are eating lunch, depending on what their period is, if the classrooms change, how would the children know where to go? Thank you to the two of you for your presentation. How is it publicized to them so they know there is a different opportunity that they can attend lunchtime workshops or lunch nooks?
I have to turn around to the principals behind me here, but I do believe it is something that is kind of shared with the students on a consistent basis. There's a lot of staff members in that lunchroom at that time. So students know that they can go to those places, they have to ask for permission to go to those places. So there isn't a way, but we can get the principals behind me here. But I do believe it is something that is kind of shared with the students on a consistent basis. There's a lot of staff members.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot. You can totally get back to me on it. I was just curious so that we know that the kids have the opportunity. I know you guys do a great job. I'm not questioning that.
But we can get back to you in the sense of what that specifically looks like, unless they want to help me and yell
to know
behind
how would
me.
my child know that these things are going on. Thank you. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. You can totally get back to me on it. I was just curious so that we know that the kids have the opportunity. I know you guys do a great job. I'm not questioning that.
Was just said, just how the students and how the parents would know with this targeted small groups what's going on.
Thank you.
I guess she basically stole my thunder there, but I was going to ask that. So you can get back to us. Thank you, obviously, for that. I'm going to piggyback on what was just said.
Right? So
just how the students and how the parents would know with this targeted small groups what's going on.
That you can then facilitate at home. So if you're not really sure what's available, it's hard to help kids or your children navigate what that may look like. So it might be kind of reaching out to building administration, right? So if you're not sure what's available, it might be reaching out to your guidance counselor. So kind of learning what's available and then reinforcing that at home. The two-pronged approach is hard to help kids or your children navigate what that may look like.
Thank you. It was a really great presentation.
It might be kind of reaching out
this
to
is not so much a
question,
but I just wanted to offer the board a little insight on what we're doing on the student end of things,
so kind of learning what's available and then
foster that sense of belonging during free periods, during lunch periods. Student government is now working on getting board games like chess and card really great presentation. This is not so much a question, but I just wanted to offer the board a little insight on what we're doing on the student end of things. Students might lack in the high school when they feel foster that sense of belonging. So we're looking to ask our peer leaders that may or may not student government is now working on getting board games like student leaders in the school to organize these types of students in the cafeteria during lunch periods, because Monopoly that might take too long, but students might lack give younger students, maybe students that have felt so we're looking to ask our peer leaders that may or may not, and while it may not be structured by adults at the moment, we're hoping that our student leaders in the school to organize these types of games. And we love to work with administration in the future. Monopoly that might take too long to structure that in the high school as well. Just to give younger students, maybe or students that have felt a little excluded, a place where they can belong. And while it may not be structured by adults at the moment, we're hoping that our student leaders will step up in the high school and foster that sense of belonging. And we love to work with administration in the future on getting adults involved to structure that in the high school as well.
And I think giving kids a place to go when they're feeling excluded is like amazing. So
thank you guys for being so on top of it. Is there anything you guys are to help provide them with I think it's even better if it's structured by the kids, and I think giving kids a place to go when they're feeling excluded is like amazing to engage other kids. Thank you guys for being so on top of it.
Well, I think actually obtaining the games right now hasn't been so much of an issue with student government. We have a pretty hefty budget that we can use to get those games. Right now, we're more working on how do we store those games and make sure they're returned to the place that they were put in the first place, and make sure that there's no damage to the games. But we're working on that. I think actually obtaining the games right now hasn't been so much of an issue with student government. We have a pretty hefty budget that we can use to get those games. Right now, we're more working on how do we store those games and make sure they're returned to the place that they were put in the first place, and make sure that there's no damage to the games.
So the combination of how students know about this is it can be mentioned in Google Classroom, but advisory, which I probably should have known, is the place where a lot of this is spoken about. So in advisory, which are like small group families, multi-grade level, phone to come through. So the combination of how students know about this is it can be mentioned in Google Classroom, but advisory, which I also not only known is the place where a lot of this is spoken about. So in advisory, which are like small group families, multi-grade level, supported by all our faculty within the buildings. These are all the topics, some of the topics that are spoken about. So those are those safe spaces that also not only do we highlight and build opportunities of belonging there, but provide information to students as needed.
Do two presentations. Dr. Wojcik is responsible for all of our federal grant programs to make sure that they're allocated in accordance with federal law. And we've started a new year of our UPK. We're now next we're going to have Dr. Wojcik come and do two presentations. To one of our UPK is responsible for all of our federal staff there and also welcome students to make sure that they're allocated in their day in the morning in accordance with federal law. We have we've started a new year of our UPK. Has been a new initiative several years into the UPK program. I had the pleasure of going underwritten to one of our state UPK sites to completely meet with the staff there and also welcome students to their benefit to members of the community who are taking advantage of the program. And as the board knows, UPK has been a new with each successive year. School district, we've gotten deeper underwritten by a state grant, the complete program that we offer, which is focusing on the staff, the facilities, benefit to members of the community who are taking advantage of the program. So, and there are a number of advantages that come through this with each successive year. Really hitting our stride. We've gotten deeper into we have some improving nice successes to share program that we offer, and by focusing on here staff, the facilities, because so many of our young people are in the UPK program, we have a much better sense of who the learners advantages that come from this. And now that we're really hitting our stride better program to serve them, I think we have some nice successes to share with you. Dr. Wojcik, and the broader opportunity here is that because so many of our young people are in the UPK program, we have a much better sense of who the learners are that are coming to us in kindergarten. And that just means we're even better prepared to serve them.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, Board of Education. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to share with you this evening two of our federal grants, as Dr. Rogers had shared. The first one is our annual ESSA grant, ESSA standing for Every Student Succeeds Act. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, 5 different titles. So I'm going to briefly go through the to have the opportunity to share with you this evening two of our federal grants, as Dr. Rogers had shared. So Title I. The first one is our annual ESSA support for Title I schools. Every Student Succeeds Act. Through grade span grouping, which is through K to 5 different titles. So highest Title I schools are determined by our low-income family ratios. Those are Robbins Lane, South Grove, and Bayless. Is our support for Title I schools. Funding in the amount of $220,000 grade span grouping, which is through K to 5, going to be allocated for Title I schools are determined by our schools low-income to support the learning and literacy. Those are Robbins Lane, South Grove, and Bayless. Additionally, part of our funding in the amount of $220,000, which is a neglected youth reserve going to be allocated for partial salaries within SIAL's boundaries. Title I schools, and then we also to support the learning and literacy reserve that we have used in the past. Additionally, part of our funding goes to Mercy First, which is a neglected youth reserve facility that is Title I Part D goes directly to our neglected and delinquent program, Mercy First, that we have used in the past, intending to use the allocation allocation of $46,201 for academic students here. Remediation, vocational skills, tutoring Title I Part
for the
D,
students who attend
goes
Mercy
directly
First,
to our neglected
as well
and
as
delinquent
supplies
program
for their
Mercy
building
First.
maintenance classes.
So they are intending to use the allocation of $46,201 for academic and that remediation, vocational skills, $90,000 for the students who attend Mercy First, as well as supplies for their building maintenance classes. Mentor program. So it's stipends for our mentor coordinators, Part and then it's stipends for our effective instruction for our mentors to work with our mentees. $90,000. Additionally, we have those stipends for our STEM liaisons at the elementary school, and those STEM liaisons work so it's stipends for our high-quality STEM instruction, and then working with our students for our science fairs, things like for our mentors to work with our part of that funding is passed through to our additionally, we have those stipends for our STEM liaisons at the elementary school. There are two that have and those STEM liaisons work be part of that allocation. High-quality STEM instruction, working with our students for our professional development on differentiating instruction. Additionally, part of that new to us through to our Long Island School for the Gifted is our private schools within the district. Our Lady of Mercy campus, and they are also going to be part of that allocation for professional development. They're going to offer professional development on differentiating instruction into two different parts. New to us, one is for our English language learning School for the Gifted, and the other part is for our immigrant students. Our Lady of Mercy campus. Both of those fundings, those allocations, are going to be used for professional development for our ENL tutors at the middle school level. Title III is broken up into two different parts. One is for our English language learning student supports, and the other part is for our immigrant students. And so both title funding really is going to be focusing on providing for partial salaries for our instructional coaching at the middle school level. And again, St. Edward and finally, Title for the Gifted they have allocations from this academic enrichment, and that's for PD for social emotional learning for St. Edward really is going to be instructional materials for enhancing STEM writing at the elementary level, instructional coaching for MTSS, and again, St. Edward and Long Island School for the Gifted. They have allocations from this title grant, and that's for PD for social emotional learning for St. Edward, and instructional materials for enhancing STEM for Long Island School for the Gifted.
I'll be real fast. I know the grants aren't very exciting.
That concludes
The
our
$90,000 for Title II Part A, does that get increased because of the Long Island School for the Gifted joining, or are we now pulling money from what could have potentially been used for? I'll be real fast. So you're not, thank you.
You're welcome.
The
There are
$90,000 for
different,
Title II Part A.
non-public schools
Does
within
that
the
get increased
borders of
because of the Long Island
schools,
School for the
and
Gifted
St. Edward and
joining,
Long Island
or
School
are
for
we
the Gifted
now
are two that happen
pulling
to
money
participate.
from
Every
what
year
could
it sort of
potentially been
varies. Some
used
years
for
CDD, our Center for
elementary
Developmental
schools? Okay.
Disabilities.
So you're not, thank you.
Participates. There
It just
are
depends on if
different
they want to
public,
participate.
non-public schools within the borders of Syosset schools, and St. Edward and Long Island School for the Gifted are two that happen to participate. Every year it sort of varies. Some years CDD, our Center for Developmental Disabilities. As Dr. Rogers shared, we are really excited to be providing our youngest learners with this strong foundation for the lifelong learning. This evening, I'm really proud to share with you just the universal pre-kindergarten program to make to our UPK program. As Dr. Rogers shared, we are really excited to be providing our youngest learners with this strong foundation for the lifelong learning. So this evening, I'm really proud to share with you a snapshot of our UPK. We have this year currently enrolled in the 2025-2026 school year, 231 students of educating the whole child in developmentally. Those preschools are the same preschools we contracted with last year. Just as a reminder, a snapshot of our UPK, we have this year currently enrolled in the 2025-2026 school year, 231 students across 6 different preschools. Offer a myriad of different before and after programs that parents can privately pay into. Green Trees, North Shore, St. Edward Variety, and Woodbury Jewish Center. So as part of our enhancements the structure of the day through the grant last year and this year, we spent a lot of time. I work directly with a myriad of different before and after programs that parents we develop learning goals. One of the learning goals is really last year and this year was to focus our enhancements to the curriculum. Structured literacy. Last year and this year, we incorporated Heggerty, which is a phonemic awareness
directly
program.
with the UPK directors.
Phonemic awareness is the building quarterly, and we develop learning goals.
Initial portions of
one of the
language
learning
that
goals is
children
really
learn as a
last year and this year was
precursor
to
to
focus
reading.
on so Heggerty is a
structured literacy
science-based,
research-based
research-based
program,
Heggerty, which is a
we
phonemic
kicked
awareness
off professional
program.
development in
Phonemic
November
awareness
of
is the building
2024,
blocks
where
of
all of
sound.
our UPK
So
sites
it's the
came
initial
together
portions
to
of
learn the
language
program
that children
was
learn as a
facilitated by
precursor
a
to
reading
consultant.
So
Heggerty is a
Then,
science-based,
that consultant
research-based
went into each
program
school to teach the
We
teachers,
kicked off
professional
with the children
development in
there to
November of
learn the
2024,
program,
where all of
using
our
authentic
UPK sites came
materials
together
and
literature.
to learn the program.
Additionally,
there was professional
by
development
a,
focused on
reading
foundations.
consultant.
Foundations is the
Then,
next step.
that
That's the phonics
consultant went
program.
into each
So after
school to
children learn
teach
their
the
basic
teachers,
sounds, now they apply those
with the
sounds
children
to print
there and
so
to
that
learn
they
the
can begin the
program,
process of reading.
using authentic
So we
materials
began,
and literature.
began to work on that.
Additionally,
more deeply,
there was professional
with a heavy
development
focus
focused
on
on
literacy
foundations.
being
Foundations
incorporated
is the
into
next
every
step.
learning
That's the
center
phonics
that the
program.
students engage
So
in.
after children learn
So
their basic
while they're
sounds, now
learning
they apply
throughout the
those
day, they're
sounds
in
to
small
print,
group
so
sessions,
that they can
and
begin the
literacy
process
is
of reading.
incorporated into every
So we
part of
begin,
those sessions. Began to work on that more deeply with a
One of
heavy
the things we
focus
also
of
focused
literacy
on
being
last year in this
incorporated
as a
into
teaching
every
and learning
learning
goal is
center
looking
that
at
the
our
students
learning
engage
environment
in.
and ensuring
So
that
while they're
the
learning throughout the
environment is
day, they're in
developmentally
small group
appropriate
sessions,
space for
and
students.
literacy is
So
incorporated
one of the
into every
things
part
that
of
we,
those sessions. Decided to incorporate this year was a Common Corner.
One of the things we also focused
our
on
Common
last
Corner
year
is a
in this
space or
teaching
a
and learning goal
center
is looking
that
at our
students
learning
can go
environment
to
and
when
ensuring
perhaps
that
they
the
feel like they need some
environment is a
quiet
developmentally
time.
appropriate
It's a time
space
where they
for
can
students.
reflect on how they
So
feel.
one of the things
they can
that
sit
we,
and decided to
book,
incorporate
look at
this
some
year
pictures,
was a Common Corner.
but it's an opportunity
So
for them
our
to
Common
just get a
Corner
little
is a
centered
space or
before
a
they
center
engage in other
that
learning
students can go
activities.
to when
The other
perhaps
thing
they
that
feel
we,
like they need some
focused on,
quiet
and you
time.
can tell by one
It's
of
a
the
time where they
images
can
is the
reflect on how they
design of the
feel.
classroom.
They can sit
So
and read
looking at
read a
how
book,
students
look at some
learn in
pictures,
small centers,
but it's an opportunity for
and
them
working
to
in
just get a little
facilitated
centered
small
before
group
they
activities
engage in other
with the
learning
teacher and the
activities.
teacher assistant
The
that's
other
in the
thing that we
classroom.
focused on,
Again,
and you can
within
tell by
that
one of the
learning
images,
design,
is
the
being sure that
design of the
language-rich
classroom.
and
So
print-rich
looking at how
classrooms are at the
students learn in
forefront of
small
everything that
centers,
students are doing,
and working
to
in
facilitate
facilitated
language
small group
acquisition in the
activities
UPK
with the
classroom.
teacher
And the teacher assistant that's in the classroom. Again, within
Despite
that
all
learning
of those
design,
wonderful
being
academic
sure that
things,
language-rich
the
and
most
print-rich
important
classrooms
thing in
are
UPK
at
is
the
ensuring
forefront
that
of
students'
everything
playtime
that
is
students are
purposeful
doing,
to
and that is where
facilitate we
language
incorporate
acquisition
those
in the
academics.
UPK So it's
classroom.
really about learning through play, and that happens both teacher-guided
Despite all of those
and
wonderful academic
child-initiated.
things, the
So we'll see
most important
opportunities
thing
where
in
students
UPK
are in
is
center-based
ensuring that
activities,
students' playtime
and
is purposeful.
those activities
And
are
that is where
designed
we
to
incorporate
pique
those
curiosity
academics.
for students.
So it's really
designed
about
to
learning through
collaborate,
play,
and that
how do
happens
we
both
communicate
teacher-guided
with one another,
and
how do we
child-initiated.
problem solve.
So
It taps
we'll see
into their
opportunities where
creativity.
students are in
So
center-based
while
activities,
students are playing,
and they're
they-
really
those
building
activities
these
are
foundational
designed to
skills
pique curiosity
in all areas
for students.
language,
Designed
math,
to
science,
collaborate,
social
how do
emotional
we
learning. And you can
communicate with
see
one
by these
another,
images,
how do
these
we
are just
problem
3
solve.
examples of
It
different
taps into their
centers where children
creativity.
play
So
each day.
while students are
You'll
playing,
see a dramatic
they're really
play area,
building
there's
these
a
foundational
student
skills
doctor
in all areas.
There's
A
language,
garden where
math,
students can come in and
science,
dig in the
social
dirt.
emotional learning.
And then
you can
see
see
by
that
these
one of the
images,
units
these are just 3
examples
centered
of
around
different
transportation
centers where
in the
children
school.
play
They created
each
an
day.
entire dramatic play
You'll see a
area
dramatic play
related
area.
to
There's a
science
student
and
playing
exploration.
doctor. So students can
there's
develop
a
curiosity
garden where
and
students
ask great
can come in
questions
and
within
dig in
that
the dirt.
center. And then you can see that one of the units was centered around
with that,
transportation.
we've
And in the
incorporated
school, they created
enhancements
an
for
entire
our
dramatic
emergent
play area
multilingual learners
related
and
to
our students with
science and
disabilities.
exploration. So
One
students
of the
can
things
develop
we really focused on was
curiosity and ask
being
great
sure
questions
that
within that
language
center. Immersion for students whose first language is not English is
with
there for
that,
students to
we've
learn. So for
incorporated
example, we've
enhancements for our
incorporated
emergent
pictures
multilingual
to
learners
support our students with disabilities. So you can see one of the things we really focused on was being sure that there's language immersion for students whose for those first language is not English is there for students to learn. So for example, we've incorporated with pictures to support learning. We do the same thing for students with disabilities. There's a feelings chart there, and Pairing words with pictures allows students the opportunity to express themselves without having to pair the words, acquire the language right away. They're able to use the pictures. We do the same thing for students with disabilities. Within that, we provided professional development opportunities for our pictures, allows students the opportunity to express themselves without having to multilingual learners and students with disabilities. They're also focusing on how to support behavior within the classroom. Within that, we provided professional development opportunities. And of course, we have a very strong partnership with our CPSE office here in Syosset with Ms. Purcell and students with disabilities. Also focusing on how to in our UPK program who either are students with disabilities or who are at risk. And of course, we have a very strong partnership with our CPSE office. As you heard this evening with Ms. Purcell and Mr. Steinberg, creating a sense of belonging at every level in our UPK program, who either are students with disabilities, our curriculum nurtures empathy, social emotional connection, and communication among students. As you heard this evening, and that really is happening by Mr. Steinberg, creating a sense of belonging at every level culture is our top priority. So in the UPK, our connection with families is our curriculum nurtures. In our UPK, families come in, connection, read stories, they participate in activities, and they're there for different holidays, Valentine's Day, inclusive environment. We bring students culture into the classroom. One of the other ways we create a sense of belonging, our connection with families is extremely important. Sites and in our UPK, families come in, and so you can see a picture here where all of the UPK teachers they're there for come together, holidays, Valentine's Day, participate in professional development, and of course, one of the other ways we steal from one another. What do you do for this? What do you do for that? It's a wonderful opportunity to build, and so you can see a picture here where all of the UPK teachers come together. As always, we thank you for your professional development support, share ideas. And we're really excited to steal from one another. What do you do for this? What do you do for that? It's a wonderful opportunity to build community amongst our sites.
Two quick questions. The number of students you mentioned, 231.
As always, we thank you for your continued support, and we're really excited to present to you this evening the enhancements for UPK.
UPK program,
Thank
or we still have room left?
Dr.
And number
Wojcik.
two is that obviously we have great curriculums for the Syosset number of students you mentioned, whether it's from a literacy perspective, is that the maximum learning environment and all these great state topics that you talked about? I'm just wondering for the students who have gone to the UPK. Obviously, we have great curriculums for the Syosset UPK, whether it's from a literacy perspective, what would be the learning environment and all these great so this way they can all be on the same topics that you talked about.
Sure.
I'm just wondering.
So to answer your first question, there are plenty of seats left. Syosset's allocation is 400 seats, and while we have the room for the seats, families, have signed up 231 of them. So any family who still wants to answer your first question, there are plenty of seats left. Is able to do so. So at this point, we have no students on the waiting list. Seats. Any family who while we have the room for the seats, families, as far as bridging have signed up 231 of them. So any family who still wants to or enter into our universal pre-K is able to do so. One of the things that our kindergarten teachers do well is any family learn their students wanted to join has right away as soon as they come in. As far as and they differentiate for each and individual student for either those who have been in UPK. So while our UPK works very closely with the curriculum, our kindergarten teachers do well is learn their students that right away as soon as they come in, and they differentiate for each and individual student for the students that present in front of us. So while our UPK works very closely not in our UPK curriculum, have not been exposed to the curriculum from our UPK, that our kindergarten teachers engage in small group learning so that they can target any student who might that present in front of us. So learn those skills that maybe they didn't learn were not in our UPK or program, have not been exposed to the curriculum from our UPK. So our kindergarten teachers TSS program also allows for us to look at the data when can target any student who might screen to learn those skills that maybe they didn't learn. And then from there, we provide systems of support for gone to preschool program before. So our MTSS program also allows for us to look at the data when students are screened to see who needs what, and then from there we provide systems of support for them.
My question, sort of piggyback on Ms. Chang's, was that I know in elementary school we always, one of our concepts was close the gap quickly, being able to secure additional funds for UPK. What I've seen from other districts is they don't have this extensive my question, sort of piggyback on Ms. Chang's, was that challenges earlier on. I know in elementary school we always, kind of along the same line of questioning, concepts was close the gap quickly. When we're identifying them and able to get them services. What I've seen from other districts is they don't have this extensive UPK
Absolutely.
program.
It's also important to understand, too, that children who are 4, 5,
so
and
kind
6
of along
years
the same
old,
line of questioning,
those levels and
how do you
abilities,
feel like
there's a
when we're
wide
identifying
variety
them
of
and able to
students
get
who
them
are
services
developmentally able to do things.
Absolutely.
It's also important to understand, too, that
adept at
children who are
understanding
4,
developmentally,
5,
kindergarten
and 6
teachers
years
or
old,
first grade teachers of what
that
students
those
need
levels and
in
abilities,
intervening early,
that's our tier 1 support,
developmentally
able to do
provide
things.
those targeted interventions for students who we may see are at risk,
who
or maybe
are
who didn't
adept
have
at
as robust of a
understanding
preschool
developmentally,
experience.
our kindergarten teachers, our first
and
grade
then
teachers
from
of
there,
what students
we
need intervening early.
through MTSS
That's our tier
at
1
tier 2
support,
or tier 3 if
and
needed.
that's where
Additionally,
we
provide those targeted interventions for students who we may see are at risk, or maybe who didn't
where
have
we
as
might
robust
feel
of a
that
preschool
a
experience.
whole class approach
and then
might
from
be
there,
supportive. So
we
sometimes we might see that
intervene,
students
through
need
MTSS
a lot of
tier
students
2
in the
or
class
tier
might
3
need
if
fine
needed.
motor support.
Additionally,
And within that, we would have the
sometimes we
occupational
see,
therapist push into the
trends
classroom
in
to do
kindergarten,
certain
where we
number of
might
weeks
feel
support
that a whole
with
class
the
approach
class.
might be
so that's
supportive.
another
So
way that
sometimes we might
help
see that
to,
students
need
need,
a lot of students in a
ameliorate
class
that
might
gap a
need
little bit.
fine motor support. And within that, we would have the occupational therapist push into the classroom to do, certain
you,
number
Dr.
of weeks
Wojcik.
support
Just a question for
with
you
the
about the
class.
after-school
And so that's
programs.
another
You had
way
mentioned
that
that the
we
6
help
preschools,
to,
I believe you
kind
said
of
that
ameliorate that
they
gap a little bit.
each are different. Some offer after-school programs, but some don't.
So
Is that
they-
what I heard?
They all offer
Thank you,
after-school
Dr. Wojcik.
programs, but
Just
some
a
are
question for
varying
you
times.
about the after-school
So
programs. You
certain
had
of
mentioned
the
that the 6
preschools have
preschools, I
more of
believe
an
you said
extended
that
time period, but they
each
all
are
do
different. Some
offer some form of
after-school
before
programs,
or
but some
after
don't.
care for families.
Is that what I heard?
They all offer
So
after-school
can a family
programs, but
choose
some are
their
varying
pre-K
times.
based on what
So
they need as far as
certain
that
of the
service
preschools have
before and
more of
after
an
school? And
extended
if they
time
can't,
period,
is it
but they
possible
all do
for a
offer
family to
some form of
utilize
before or after care
like
for
let's say an
families.
after-school program at a different So can a family
Preschool. I don't even
choose
know how
their
that would be
pre-K
possible if you
based
had
on
somebody to
what
drive
they
them,
need
but
as far
I'm
as
just
that
asking if that's a
service
possibility
before
for
and after
families.
school? And if they can't,
So
is
we
it
are,
possible for a family
UPK
to
seats are
utilize
selected by lottery, so when
like let's say an
families
after-school
register, they
program
have
at
the
a
opportunity
different
to rank their choices of
I don't even know how
UPK in
that would be
order of
possible
what's
unless you had somebody
best
to drive
fitting
them, but
their
I'm
needs
just
as
asking if that's a
families.
possibility for
One of the
families.
things we do for families to help
So
them make
we
their
are,
decision when it's time to
UPK
register,
seats are
our
selected
UPK
by
website
lottery, so when
has,
families
a
register,
link
they have
to
the opportunity
each
to rank
preschool
their
that we
choices
work
of
with.
UPK
That
in
link
order
to
of
each
what's
preschool
best
shares
fitting
information
their
about each
needs
preschool.
as
It does like a
families.
little virtual tour.
One of the things we
and
do
then it
for
allows
families to
families
help
to
them
make their
preschool
decision
to
when
learn
it's
more
time
information
to
about what
register.
fits them
Our
best
UPK website
for their needs as
has,
far as
the
the
school
link
day and then
to
before and
each
after care.
preschool that we
Once
work
the
with.
lottery
That
takes
link to each
place,
preschool
we
shares
go through
information
and
about
we
each preschool.
assign
It does
based
like a
on
little
lottery
virtual
number.
tour.
I'm happy
and then
to
it
report
allows
that
families
this
to
year,
contact the preschool to learn
87%
more
of our
information
students
about
or
what fits
families
them
receive
best
their
for their
first,
needs as far
or
as
second
the
choice
school day and then
in the
before and
lottery.
after care.
And so
Once
that
the
really goes a
lottery
long
takes
way
place,
to
we go
ameliorating some
through
of
and
those,
we
assign based on
those
lottery
concerns
number.
about
I'm
before
happy
and
to
after
report
care.
that.
This
However, it is
year,
up to the family that if
87%
the
of our
school that they're
students or
in
families
doesn't
receive
provide
their
that for
first,
them, they
or
could
second choice
participate in
in the
another
lottery
provider
before
and
after
so
care, if
that
they
really
could,
goes a long way
manage
to
that.
ameliorating some of those concerns about before and after care. However, it
Dr.
is up to the
Wojcik.
family that if the school that
So
they're
I
in
guess we're way
doesn't
under
provide that
what
for
we're
them,
able
they
to
could
allot for
participate
people.
in another provider.
Is that going to
before or
affect
after care
future
if they could,
enrollment or future,
manage
are
that
they going to give us
funding.
less next year? Okay, and is there a better way that we can maybe get the word out? I guess
Dr. Wojcik.
Tonight?
Yeah,
So
that's a great.
I guess
that's a
we're
great
way
point.
under
We
what we're
have,
able to
we
allot for
do.
people.
We engage in a lot
Is
of
that going going to
different
affect
ways
future
to let the
enrollment or
community
future,
know that we have
Are
youth
they going to
and
give
day
us less
seats.
next
So,
year?
in the beginning,
Okay, and is there a better way that we can maybe get the word
use our
out? I guess.
community updates
Except for
during
tonight.
every
Yeah,
that's a great
have
point.
little cards that we send home to every single family within the
engage
district.
in a lot of different ways.
We
to,
have lots of ways
let the
in which
community
we,
know that we have
share
youth
it on our
PK seats.
website.
So
We
in
put
the
out
beginning,
like little
things for families
use our
from the
community
pre-K if they have
updates
younger
during
siblings
every week.
So we try the best we
have
can
little
to
cards
engage
that we
as many
send home to
families
every
as
single
possible,
family within the
and try to
district.
target to get as many.
We
in as
have
possible.
lots of ways in which we share it on our website.
Right.
We
Thank
put
you,
out
Ms.
like
Dr.
little
Wojcik.
things for
Thank you.
families
And
from
are
the
we going to
pre-K
move
if they
on
have
to,
younger
Board of
siblings.
Education goals by
So
Dr.
we try the
Rogers?
best we can to engage as many families as possible and try to target to get as many in as possible.
Just to bring us all back up to
Thank you
speed, the
again,
board
Dr.
worked over the course
Thank
of
you.
this last
And
year,
we're going
put
to
together
move on to, Board of
refreshed
Education goals by
goals.
Dr. Rogers.
We've had some goals for the district, but the board adopted some goals, formalized those, and worked hard on the language. So we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes internally to align some of our practices, how we work with the building refreshed goals, both on what they prioritize for the district, but the initiatives adopted some goals, formalized those through, but also worked how we hard on the language. Those and report them back to the board. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes internally to align some of our practices, how we work with the building other analyses of what both on what they prioritize in board the initiatives that they're seeing already, how many of how we initiatives that are underway are being shaped by those new goals. That will find itself woven in here is not to go deep into this, and I certainly won't read all of the things other analyses of what we're doing, but illustrate that the board's work is really providing us with already how many of our job initiatives that are underway are being shaped by those new goals with the work that we're doing. My point here is not to go deep into this, and I certainly won't read detail here on every slide, but to illustrate that the board's educational enterprise and providing us with a framework and the purpose for our existence. So it's important for us to have an academic with the work that we're doing. And so just to refresh on the goals, and I won't read the detail here, maximizing our students' potential. Obviously, we're ensuring that educational enterprise and academic excellence is the purpose for our existence. So it's important for us to have an academic excellence and meaningful, and we're always trying to balance for the goals that they want to achieve. Maximizing our second is an inclusive and engaging culture, ensuring that they have. Obviously, our students are going to become an experience that future leaders, our future community members, wherever they may reside, and we want our students to be the goals that they want to reflection on school district. Second is an inclusive and engaging culture, climate character. Obviously, we think about how they're going to navigate through our future leaders, our future community members, wherever they may reside. They do build and really good character, and they also know how to navigate. Great reflection on a very diverse community and a very families. Great reflection on this connected community. So we think about helping them navigate through the challenges when we pull together adolescents, so that they do build. Say during the pandemic, we all pull together, and they also know how to navigate. So very diverse community and a very diverse world. And then, of course, we want to do all of our work in as efficient, this community as way as possible, as transparent together as possible. So we have some constraints during the pandemic. If we all pull together, we'll all pull through. And we did. Help folks understand how school districts connected community is very stronger community. And then, of course, we want to do all of our work in as efficient in the academic excellence as possible, as transparent a way as possible. One of the things that we're going to be spending a lot of time, we have some constraints on us by laws, is our portrait of a graduate. How are we going to help folks understand how successful operate graduate? What is the goal that we're shooting for? The state has outlined what they call a portrait of a graduate. So in the academic excellence area, it lacks sufficient detail. One of the things that we're going to be spending a lot of time over the course of this year working on is our portrait of a graduate, about our SCIO-Inspire learner profile, the successful SCIO graduate. What is the goal our elementary leaders and teachers outlined what they call a portrait of a graduate, but working through the knowledge and skills and detail our students to really describe what it is that we're with as a foundation for the work that they're going to do when they reach about our secondary learner profile special education. We're working our elementary leaders and teachers have been engaged in working with working through the knowledge and skills even better our students, so that our teachers have more knowledge and skills as a foundation for the work that they're going to do. And as we've been reporting board over the course of the last year, special education, we see AI has a significant development, use the models that we have for every aspect of life, but certainly students' education won't be untouched, so that our teachers have more knowledge and skills to serve them. Deeply engaged as we've been reported that board over the course of the last year, certainly we see AI as a significant development with the inclusive every aspect of life, but certainly education won't be have worked on developing. So we want to make sure our ninth grade social studies classes deeply engaged introduce that we understand their responsibilities to use as members of the high school community, but also how to think of themselves as with the inclusive, engaging culture. That civic engagement goal was important. Have worked on developing. So we talked with the board about a year ago about some ideas for how to do that. Classes. Our first idea was introduce our best idea to their responsibilities. You suggested that we go back and iterate. We did iterate, also this is how to think of themselves as members of a larger community. And at the elementary level, we've done a lot of. So we talked with the board about a year ago about some ideas around do that. Positive behavioral. Our first idea was not our best idea with students. You suggested that we go back and iterate. Writing that we've done is now going to be turnkey result of that additional development for teachers. At the elementary level, again, we're trying to build the range of skills. A lot of curriculum writing this summer. The board has supported. I've been very appreciative of that support we can do with students. We've opened our second 913 class. Curriculum writing that we've done is now going to be turnkey, and this allows us to serve. But again, we're trying to build the range of skills that they have. Youngsters in their home community. The board has supported, and I've been very appreciative requiring them to take a long bus ride. We've opened our second 913 class. It allows them to interact with. We opened our first last year. They're typically developing peers. It gives them our most opportunity to be part of the building community. Youngsters, as we know, are building in their home community rather than wonderful, joyful celebrations. Those specialized facilities in those. It allows them to interact with. So they're typically developing peers. It gives them, and as you heard earlier, the opportunity to be part of a building. A lot of energy, as we know, our buildings have built a sense of belonging. That students wonderful, joyful celebrations. Those students get to participate in those. The connected community goal. A lot of what we've done has been. We're very excited about that through technology. And as you heard earlier, want to oversell it, and I don't want to undersell it either. Thinking about how to build shifted many of our communications buildings. We reinvested in the website, started over from scratch. Connected community goal. We are trying to put more and more of our curriculum online through technology, and I don't want to oversell it, and I don't want to undersell it either. They can access it. We have shifted many of our communications platforms. We reinvested remains in the website. Highly engaged partner started over from scratch. That we are trying to put more and more of our additional needs to workshops and other kinds of opportunities so they need. Parents have resources that they can access at times that students no longer have their devices immediately at hand. Remains. We want to nevertheless make sure that they're able to communicate about clubs that we're working with our students that have. We've started connecting needs the monitors that line the walls so that we can have announcements and information. And we're doing some things in the high school now that students no longer have their devices immediately at hand. Efficient. We want to with our nevertheless make sure that they're able to communicate entering the large opportunities. We've started the larger part of the construction projects that we line the walls so that last month I introduced the facilities bond tracking tool that will allow members of the public to see where the facilities projects with our operations. We're obviously entering the large to have a sense of when those projects should be. The larger part of the construction projects that we have ahead. Excited about working on. Last month I introduced these goals. We're excited about working on the work that is in front of us so they can see where all of these projects that any given building are as connected to opportunities to take when those projects system that's performing well. So have even better excited about working on these goals. We're excited about working on the because we're now communicating with a new platform. I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity if you want to download the app. It gives you the best experience for reading some of the and have even better information that we're pushing out to the other end. I won't leave this up here all night because I think QR codes can be annoying. Because we're now communicating with a new platform, I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity if you want QR code to download the app. It gives you the best experience for reading some of the so you can download information that we're pushing out. So I won't leave this up here all night because I think QR codes can be annoying. But this will be posted online, so if someone
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
looks at this
are there any
online,
questions for Dr. Rogers?
Use the QR code to get directly to the app and not an imposter app, so that you can download and get your
Thank you so much for the update. One question I had, we spent a long time when we were making the board goals, discussing, the need to have the comparability in classroom assessments, especially in the high school. And I was just wondering if you could give us thank you so much for the update that's been made for that. One question I had, we spent a long time when we were making the board goals, discussing, you know, the need to have the comparability in classroom assessments, especially in the high school. And I was just wondering if you could give us an update on the progress that's been made for that specific goal.
Not easy to have exact comparability. Certainly when there are common assessments. What you're asking for is like comparability on how our assessments are graded, essentially. Those are graded by committee, so there's a lot of consistency in those grades. Not all classes use the same kinds of assessments, so it's not easy to have boards and that's something that exact comparability. Certainly when there are common assessments like midterms and things like that, there are.
Do you have any time frame on when we could hear
so there's a lot of consistency
more
in those
updates on it,
ratings.
just because I know how important it is
we know
to
that that's a
everyone I
priority
talk
of
to.
the boards, and that's something that we have been talking about. It will be complicated work. I don't want to undersell the importance of it because it should be fair for students.
Time frame on when we could hear more updates on it, just because I know how important it is to everyone I talk to.
So we're all on board with that goal. It will be complicated. I don't want to academic independence undersell the importance of it because it should be fair for students. I will use nonsensical examples. For the same level of work, you should get the same grade no matter who your instructor is. Teacher only uses quizzes, and another teacher only uses essays. We're all on board with that goal. It will be very difficult to say. Teachers have a lot of there's going to be a rigid way of making those two things so automatically comparable. I will use nonsensical examples to challenge will be is where. So if one teacher only uses quizzes and another teacher only uses essays, trying to come up with comparability between very different types. There's going to be a rigid way of making those two things. Don't want to say that that's automatically comparable. So, but what certainly it's something that I would like to be able to report. There's not a challenge where there's a common assessment like a midterm. The challenge will be trying to come up with comparability between very different types of assessments. So I don't want to say that that's something we'll have done in a month. But certainly it's something that I would like to be able to report back to the board on during the course of this school year.
I see what you're saying about the difficulties.
Ms. Abramson?
I agree with that, but I think there are some things that are probably easier if we do it in stages. Maybe, like, for instance, I know that some teachers do test corrections, or if that becomes the commonplace, or those things are kind of easier to tackle and make universal. So the difficulties, and I'm moving in a agree with that, but I think there are some things that are probably a little longer. Easier if we do it in stages. Maybe, like, for instance, I know that some teachers do test corrections,
the other thing was,
if that becomes the
you
commonplace,
listed the new,
those things are kind of easier to tackle and make universal, so at least it feels like we're moving in a direction.
state and science learning standards for earth science, bio, physics, and chemistry. I know earth science and bio, we waited. The other thing was,
adopting the new one,
you listed the new
plan for physics and chemistry,
the regions
implemented immediately.
The new state and science learning
So
standards for earth
I'll
science, bio,
answer
physics,
those
and
in the order
chemistry.
that you posed
I know
them.
earth science
So
and
we
bio
are doing
waited
scope and sequence
a year
work
before
at the
adopting
high
the
school
new one. Is
now.
that
So
the same plan for physics
part of
and
that is
chemistry?
to get to
Were they implemented
more
immediately?
common descriptions for courses. So I see that leading in the direction that your questions answer those in the order that you posed are going so for. We are doing scope and sequence work we're getting at the high school now. So the goal that part of that is to get to we'll go through this scope and sequence work. Common descriptions for courses. Again, so I think that's that leading in the direction that your questions, Ms. One of the things we've looked at some tools that are the path we're getting curriculum mapping tools. The goal that we all share will go identify common areas of curriculum and then turn those into curriculum maps. Again, I think that's we haven't found one that necessarily one of the things we've looked at some tools that all of that fits into the scope and sequence curriculum mapping move us tools that use AI to identify common areas of curriculum and then turn those into curriculum maps. So on your second question, we haven't found one that necessarily districts that move more quickly to adopt the new science standards. We were not scope and sequence work. The reason for that is in the past when the state has updated standards, they have provided a lot of material as to what the assessments will look like. On your second question, so with the science standards, districts that moved more quickly to adopt I don't know if science standards, we were not. They simply didn't provide us. The reason for that is a sense of what the past when the state has updated standards, we made the decision to allow the state to go through one assessment cycle so that we would have a chance to see what the new science standards they were reluctant, and that would help us tailor and structure. I don't know if reluctant is the right word. They simply didn't provide us with. So they did offer those sense of assessments in the spring. We had a chance to see those assessments. We made the decision to allow the state to go through one assessment cycle so that we would have a chance to see what the new assessments looked like. and that would help us tailor instruction towards those new assessments when they were finally released. So they did offer those assessments in the spring.
Thank you.
We had a chance to see
Thank
those
you
assessments,
to all
understand what they
presenters
look
today.
like,
We
and
had
now we're
really
aiming
great
towards
presentations.
those
Oh, of
new
course.
assessments with the new science standards. So I'll just conclude my report. We talked a lot over the course of the last
Are there
several
any more
months about the state's new law requiring
Thank
students
you.
not to use their cell
And
phones
thank you
during
to all
the
the
regular
presenters
school
today.
day.
We had really great
And I was
presentations.
in a meeting with Mr. Shah, where we talked about this briefly, but I did want to share with the board my report. Presumption of health. We talked a lot over the course of the last several months about the state's new law requiring and some observations that I made. Cell phones during first is the regular school day, and far better than I thought it might. In a meeting with Mr. Shah, perhaps where we talked about this briefly, but I did want to share with the board my. I underestimated our students, and whenever you underestimate us, how things are going, you often find some observations that I've made. So first, this is one of those cases where I was proven wrong. Far better than I thought we would have a lot of success at the elementary school, and I thought the middle school would also be likely, but I was uncertain of how I underestimated our students. And whenever you underestimate us, I ask the student, you often find yourself proven wrong. And have been really this is one of those cases where I was proven wrong. Enterprising in figuring out how to do the work that they need to get done, even without thought the middle school would also be likely, but I was uncertain of how one of the things I've observed walking through the halls, but are that students have been more engagement between the students with one another, and have been really creative, and so enterprising in figuring out how to do the work that they need to get done. They didn't recognize me when they were looking at their facilitation. So I've gotten more greetings from students through the last couple of weeks, is that I feel like there's more engagement between the students with one another, walking through the hallways, and that's been between the students and me, kind of a treat for me. So the other thing that I would say so many people would recognize me, but I guess they didn't recognize me when they were looking at their phones. So I've gotten more story that was relayed to me by a student a couple of weeks than I feel like I get in months and months. Walking into the high school, a student was coming off kind of a field, had just finished the other thing that I would say is that just struck up a conversation with me and said, you know, I just a story that was relayed to me by a student. So I said, say more. Tell me what do you mean by that? Walking into the high school, a student was coming off the field and just finished with my friends athletics and practice, having a meal or something at the diner. Conversation with me. None of us are taking our phones out because at first it feels like the cell phone thing is we're not allowed to, even though we're at the diner. We are allowed to. What do you mean by that? We all kind of feel like we'd rather just sort of talk. Even now, when in the high school talking with a group of younger students, and I would have never done that or something at the diner. Like none of us are taking our phones out because I actually think it's going really well. We're not allowed to. I just wanted to let you know that. We are allowed to. This was a student I had never met before. We all kind of feel like we would rather just sort of talk. And if he's watching this board meeting, he'll know exactly who younger students. But I would have never done that if I was just catching up on something that was on my phone. So I actually think it's going really well. I said, "Are you still able to let you know everything you need to?" He said, "Oh, yeah." This was a student I had never met before. He was actually logging his own screen time. If he's watching this board meeting, he'll know exactly who he is. Decrease in screen time. But it was kind of an interesting conversation after, which I thought was interesting that he from a young person. So I said, "Are you still able to catch up on everything?" Just again want to compliment our students, but say they've exceeded my expectations yet again. And comparing the amount of decrease in screen time that he had before and after, which I thought was interesting that he cared enough to look. So I just again want to compliment our students and say they've exceeded my expectations yet again.
We are going to move on to new business. And 11A is the approval of staff changes. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? Without any hiccups. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? So we have no legislative items, no discussion items. 11B is the approval of stipends and hourly rates 2025 to new business. Can I have a motion, please? And 11A is the approval of staff changes. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? Any abstentions? All in favor? 11C is the appointment of individuals to serve as volunteer judges for forensic 11B is the approval of stipends and hourly rates 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Are there any questions? By Mr. Ginsburg. Are there any questions? Opposed? All in favor? Any abstentions? Opposed? 11D is the appointment of teaching assistants. 11C is the appointment of individuals to serve as volunteer judges for forensic competitions. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? 11E is the medical examination of school district employee. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, 11D is the appointment of teaching assistants. Can I have a motion, please? All in favor? Ms. Falco, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions?
12A and 12B can be taken together. They're the approval of the Committee on Preschool Special Education medical examination of school district special education recommendations. Can I have a motion, please? Second by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Any abstentions? Any abstentions? 12A and 12B can be taken together. Is the second reading and adoption of policy 5300 and Code of Character, Conduct, and Support. Can I have a motion, please? Can I have a motion, Mr. Ruotolo, second by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 12C is the second reading and adoption of policy 5300, Code of Character, Conduct, and Support. Can I have a motion, please? All in favor? Mr. Ruotolo, second by Mr. Greco. Any abstentions? Are there any questions? 11B is the authorization for special education and/or nursing contracts. Can I have a motion, please? 13A is the authorization of service contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, second by Mr. Ginsburg. Are there any questions? Any abstentions? All in favor? 13C is the authorization for change order for Syosset High School and/or nursing contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Second by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Any abstentions? 13D is the authorization for piggybacking is the authorization for change order for Syosset High School and related service. Can I have a motion, City of Tucson, Arizona. Can I have a motion, please? Are there any questions? Mr. Ruotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. All in favor? Are there any questions? Opposed? Any all in favor? 13D is the authorization for piggybacking. 13E is the approval of student club charters, 2025 and related service. Can I have a motion, City of Tucson, Arizona. Can I have a motion, please? Are there any questions? Mr. Ruotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. All in favor? Are there any questions? Opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? 13F is the approval of student group charters, 2025 is the approval of student club charters, 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Mr. Ginsburg. Are there any questions? Any abstentions? 13G is the adoption of grants. 13F is the approval of student group charters, 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ruotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? 13H is the acceptance of donation. Any abstentions? Art gallery doorway signs. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ruotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? Please, Ms. Koshia, seconded by Mr. Ginsburg. Are there any questions? Opposed? All in favor? Any abstentions? Opposed? 13I is the acceptance of donation. 13H art gallery benches. Can I have a motion, please? Art gallery doorway signs. Can I have a motion, please? Are there any questions? Mr. Ruotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. All in favor? Are there any questions? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13J is the approval of disposal of broken slip glass and 13I is the acceptance of supplies and books. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Greco, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? By Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Any abstentions? Opposed? We're moving on to audience to the public. 13J is the approval of bear with me as I read the procedures and/or obsolete equipment. Supplies and books. The board values community input and provides opportunities to offer that input via email or in person. Persons who wish to speak during audience to the public must register online to speak in advance of the meeting by 5 p.m. to the day of the board meeting. Please bear with me as I read the procedures. A link to the pre-registration form will be made available on the board page on the district website. One opportunities to offer that input via email or in person. Persons who wish to speak during audience to the public must register online to speak in advance of the meeting by 5 p.m. the day of the board meeting. To the following rules. A link to the pre-registration form will be made available on the board page on the district website 1 week before the meeting. In accordance persons with wishing to address the board. In person during audience address the board must come not members of the audience adopted by the audience as a whole. Speakers' remarks must conform must limit their comments to issues concerning all speakers and observers are required to conduct themselves in a respectful and civil manner in accordance with because of the rights protected by state and federal law. Speakers must address the board only, not members of the audience or the audience nor will the board or administration entertain questions. Speakers must limit their comments to issues concerning school district operations, school district matters, or legal matters. Policy. 5. No speaker may speak protected by state and federal law. No speaker may speak about an individual student or staff member. Nor will the board or administration entertain questions specific students regarding collective bargaining, negotiations, personnel matters, student matters, or legal matters. Slurs, personal abuse, lewd. No speaker may speak about decisions involving specific profanity, libelous speech, threats, and fighting words or gestures. To address the board concerning specific personnel. Any person who violates the rules above the speaker must forfeit the balance of their time. Speakers may not use to recognize slurs, to be recognized to speak, persons must register with their full name and address, profanity, and attest that they will comply with the rules fighting words or gestures. In addition, only residents of the Syosset Central School District are permitted to immediately forfeit the balance of their time. Each resident will have 4 minutes to address the board. To be recognized to speak, persons must register with their full name and address. The board will not permit comply with the rules stated above. In addition, only residents of the Syosset Central School District are permitted to address the board. Each resident will have 4 minutes to address the board, which may be extended or reduced at the discretion of the board chair. No resident will be permitted to address the board more than once per meeting, and no one may record another member of the public in a manner that is disruptive or confrontational. With that, the board and/or administration may respond to residents' questions or comments. No resident will be permitted to address the board more than once per meeting, and no one may record another member of the public in a manner that is disruptive or confrontational. Okay, with that, the first speaker is
Thank you, Madam President.
Brian Tibet.
I want to speak about the change to Policy 5300, the Code of Character, Conduct, and Support, which was made tonight by the board. First, I'll remark that I get the impression that the board was not interested in public participation on this. The public hearing, which is required by state law, was held in August during the summer when the schools closed. Many people are on vacation or out of town. The public hearing, such as it was, consisted entirely of a presentation by Assistant Superintendent Steinberg. There was no advanced notice except for one line in the meeting reminder. There's no community update, there's no announcement about the public hearing. I know there was a website with a link. That link was not widely circulated, I think it's fair to say. Mr. Steinberg made a couple of remarks which I think need to be corrected. One, he stated as fact that the policy committee had updated the policy. The policy committee can only make recommendations. It cannot update the policy. Only the Board of Education can do that. Also, Mr. Steinberg stated that at tonight's meeting, the board would adopt the policy. He didn't say that you would vote on it. He said that you would adopt it. With all due respect, I don't think it's within Mr. Steinberg's purview to say how the board will vote on any issue. Now, I have questions for the board. First question is, I would like to know what the board's understanding is of of how things would be different under this new policy compared to the old one. My reading of the change, I'm concerned that it could be interpreted as narrowing the board's prerogatives. Right now, in the existing policy before the change, the board was given quite wide latitude to review decisions by the superintendent regarding school suspensions. It could overturn the suspensions. The only restriction was the board's decision had to be limited to the record given to it. The new policy change, it seems to me, could be interpreted to mean that the board's latitude is narrowed and restricted to the 2 factors that are explicitly enumerated now in the policy. So, if my interpretation is correct, I would like to know what the board intended. My second question is, I'd like to know why the board made this decision so quickly without asking Mr. Steinberg even a single question. If my concern is founded that this policy change could have the effect of reducing the power of the Board of Education and increasing the power of the superintendent when it comes to principal and superintendent suspensions, then that is a matter that should be of great concern to all the families in this district, because the Board of Education is democratically elected and the superintendent is not. So thank you.
Okay, the second speaker is Jennifer Mass.
Thank you very much. Hello, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, and members of the board. I come to you today as a parent of a third grader at Walt Whitman to speak to you on behalf of myself, my daughter, but also on behalf of many other Walt Whitman families. I think by now it comes as no surprise that our community was extremely frustrated with recent decisions made just days before the start of the school year, which without communication from the administration and without transparency as to reasoning, left our elementary school children in a grade with crowded physical classrooms and a student-to-teacher ratio that makes teaching hard and learning more of a challenge than for many of their 8-year-old peers. Of course, I am speaking of the decision to do away with a planned 4th section for the Walt Whitman 3rd grade and instead keep them at 3 sections while allowing other 3rd graders in other schools to be taught in classes of several children less. Specifically, our children are in classes of 23, 24, and 24 kids, with the addition of 1 new child as of even today, while some other 3rd graders in the district are taught in classes closer to 17 students. That is a 6 or 7 student difference per class in some situations. The Syosset Central School District's own Board of Education Goals 2025 revisions located online, which in fact, Dr. Rogers, you referenced and discussed just a few moments ago, reveal a goal of academic excellence, where it is stated that that the board will create individualized learning experiences while maintaining comparability in classroom instructional and assessment practices, as you yourself said. There is just no way that even with the amazing Walt Whitman teachers that we adore, that they are able to achieve your own stated goals of creating individualized learning experiences with a class of 24 children. And clearly, you have also failed at your goal of maintaining comparability in classroom instruction when we have some classes in the district with 1 teacher teaching 24 children and others teaching 16 or 17. Let me be very, very clear. This is not a case of Walt Whitman versus any other school. We do not begrudge any school for having additional sections which allow for smaller classes. But what we do very certainly take issue with is the inequity created when decisions are made that allow for our children to be in very large classes while their peers have the benefit of smaller ones. In 2022, Governor Hochul signed landmark legislation that changed the class sizes in New York City and made it that a max of 20 kids could be in grades K to 3, 23 in grades 4 to 8. This was not based on a whim, but based on proven benefits of smaller classes and years of study. Fewer students in class means more one-on-one attention for every student, and fewer students means the teacher can meet the needs of all children with a range of capabilities, from the child who needs extra guidance to the child that needs an accelerated pace, and all of the very many children, the great majority, who are in between and don't qualify for pull-out programs. Smaller classes would allow children the space and ability to move around in what are currently very cramped classrooms, which is especially necessary in the long months where recess is indoors and kids are spending an inordinate amount of time in the classroom. We therefore ask 2 things: that the school board revisit and change the policy that allows for 25 kids in a K to 3 class and an obscene 27 kids in older grades. Classes must be smaller for our children. And 2, in the short term, for this 2025-2026 year, we are asking that at the very least, you add class size reduction tutors, meaning an extra certified teacher in all day in classrooms that are large in the district, but most especially in our Walt Whitman 3rd grade, where excellent teachers since kindergarten have been doing their best in crowded classes with what we know to be a challenging grade due to differing learning styles, behavioral challenges, rambunctious students, and a variety of factors. We hope that you will do the right thing and move forward so that we don't have to be here again discussing this same issue for our 4th graders next year. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Allison Soren.
Good evening, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, and the Board of Education. I'm also here tonight to speak about the specific concerns relating to the class size of the 3rd grade student body at Walt Whitman. I understand how much care goes into balancing resources, needs, and budgets across the district. However, as a parent of a current third grader at Walt Whitman whose son is impacted by these decisions, and on behalf of other third grade parents, I thought it was important to share the implications of these decisions and how they have directly affected our children. At the PTA meeting earlier this month, emotions understandably ran high. I've come here tonight to speak constructively because our goal is not to dwell on frustration, but to ensure our concerns are heard and addressed in partnership with the district. District policy caps class sizes at 25 students for K through third grade. Whitman's third grade classes are technically under that cap, but are close to it and generally at the very high end for developmental needs at this age. Last year, Whitman's second grade had 72 students across 3 classes, 24 students in each. We were told then that this group would be split into 4 sections for third grade because of both the numbers and specific needs of this cohort. Families were surprised to learn, without prior notice or communication, that the district chose to keep only 3 sections. This decision felt sudden and honestly left parents feeling blindsided and disregarded. It became even more confusing when we later learned that another elementary school with almost identical grade level numbers did receive a 4th section. To be clear, we are not questioning the needs of another school. Our concern is about consistency and equity. Both schools had roughly the same number of students, 73 versus 71 at Whitman, as we've had a new enrollment since the start of school. Both schools warranted a consideration for the 4th section. Even our teachers and principals supported smaller class sizes for this grade. There are also practical realities beyond headcount. Syosset's class size policy was set years ago when school buildings and schedules looked different. At Whitman, 24 students in a classroom is physically tight. In my son's 2nd and 3rd grade classes, desks are arranged in ways that leave some children not even facing forward. Something Dr. Wojcik just said earlier tonight in her presentation was important. Add in inappropriate lunch times and little to no movement some days, as today's lunchroom can only fit 1 grade at a time, leaving kids to eat lunch very early and very late. The gym is no longer available for indoor recess, and the environment becomes even more challenging. Research consistently shows that smaller class sizes in early grades improve individualized instruction, literacy development, and classroom management. Even 2 or 3 extra students can make a significant difference in how much one-on-one time each child receives, both academically and social-emotionally. This year, Whitman's 3rd grade has 23, 24, and 24 students per class, compared with 16 to 21 in most of the other schools, which creates an inequitable learning environment. While other students benefit from smaller teacher-to-student ratios, our children are in larger, less individualized settings. That disparity is hard to accept. I want to reiterate, all of my son's teachers have been beyond exceptional and wonderful, but of course his classroom experience is different when he's getting 1/24th of his teacher versus 1/16th or 1/20th of a teacher's time, attention, and guidance. We ask for immediate resources to bridge this gap, specifically through the allocation of class reduction tutors. Looking forward, we urge the district to revisit and update its class size policy to reflect today's realities, whether it's revisiting the class size max, takes into account that not all grade makeups are the same across schools behaviorally, academically, social-emotionally, or automatically adds a class reduction tutor for grades closer to the max and or grades that have more students per class as compared to other schools. There are many policy-related decisions to be considered that we urge you to revisit. Our hope is that the district will address these inequities now and also consider long-term policy adjustments so that all students have equal opportunities to thrive and receive smaller group and individualized instruction and ensure consistency across all elementary schools. Thank you for your time and for listening to the concerns of Whitman families, letting me go over the 4 minutes, and we would like to be partners in supporting the success of every child in our district.
Okay, all right, so this closes the audience to the public. Dr. Rogers will address the Walt Whitman class size. I just want to circle back to Mr. Tevet. The district sends emails out to the community 1 school day before the board meeting regarding the meeting agenda. So the public hearing part of this policy 5300 was in that email. So I'm not sure if you received that email, but you're more than welcome to leave your email address with our PR person in the back, Ms. Heffron, she'll make sure that your email address is included in the blast. And number two, I respectfully disagree with you when you mentioned about the procedures, how we adopt the policy. And as you know, the policy remains the purview of the board. The board do get together on a regular basis to discuss the policy. And for the code of conduct, we have to review that annually, and we do spend the time to review that annually, and we are following all the procedures we need to adopt the policy, including the policy meeting and also the public hearing, and leaving the policy online for a month for the public to inspect, for the community to inspect. So with that whole month, you did have time to address the board. So just want to make that clear to you. And again, this remains the purview of the board, especially the policy part. Just want you to understand that. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Rogers to address. Thank you.
Sure, and thank you to the parents from Walt Whitman for sharing your concerns and for taking the time to show up here tonight together. So if I had known that the first PTA meeting of the year was going to be contentious, I would have assigned myself to it. I didn't realize that it was going to be contentious. My deputy, Dr. Curry, went. I'm told she did admirably at the meeting, but I tend to try to go to those contentious meetings myself. So I appreciate the recognition that emotions ran high at that meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity to address some of the concerns that the community, that the Walt Whitman third grade community has in hindsight. So to go through this, I think one of the first things that I need to do is just educate folks in how we make decisions about class sizes, sections, placement, all of that, because in not understanding it, it may be possible for someone to think that there is a reversal of a decision, or that something wasn't fully considered, or that there was a change or a deviation in practice. So I'm always happy to walk through how the processes in the district work. And the point of going through this exercise is to illustrate that we've done what we always do in the same way we've always done it. The result is not something that is popular, I understand that. And this is not the first time that we've received complaints about class sizes or about this process, but we are implementing it consistently over time and over all of the buildings. So how does that work? We make decisions about sections as late in the summer as we possibly can. It is typically the last Wednesday before the start of school that we will finalize. We will finalize staffing based on our knowledge of how many students are registered as of that date. So we have to have a cutoff date at some point. That ends up being the cutoff date. All of the decisions are made based on the data in place at that time. Why do we wait so long? When I started here, this is my 12th time doing sections. So I'm starting my 12th year, so obviously 12th summer. So when I first arrived here, we might see maybe across all the elementary schools, 20, 25 kids move in, move out, change. I would say we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 times that on a regular basis now. And there was one summer where we had 300 new entrants come into school. So we had one summer where we broke 14 sections. So there is just a tremendous amount of movement over the summer. There is a lot more housing activity in the community than there's ever been before. And any staffing decision that we don't make essentially right before the start of school is going to be out of date just a few weeks into the summer. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have exactly the right number of teachers for exactly the right number of students. We do see movement between buildings in the district. We obviously see movement in and out of the district. And one of the priorities that the board has had lately is for us to be really focused on residency. And so we've seen some movement in student numbers because we've identified residency issues with some of the students that are enrolled here. So all of that factors into how and when we make those decisions. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that we had something that was a finalized staffing plan in June with any expectation that that plan would somehow last until September. They never have, they never will, but just to be very clear, we don't make any decisions about staffing until late in the summer. Because we don't make those decisions until late in the summer, and because our teachers' contract requires us to give ample advance notice to teachers that might be excessed if we don't need them, we have to make decisions about who might be excessed early in the spring in order to make that deadline. So there have been several years when I was here that we gave notices to teachers that they may not have a job in September. Not the notice that they want, and we don't want them to go looking for another job because they're wonderful people. But if we didn't have enough student enrollment to justify their positions and we had failed to notify them earlier, we would not be in a position to access them at the end of the summer. So that factors into the decision making as well. When I arrived in Syosset, the practice here was any class that the district would not split any class unless it went over the class size maximums. And as you referred to earlier, it's at K through 3, 25, grades 4 and 5, 27. So if there were, to make the math easy, a class with 75 students in it, that would be 3 sections. And the district would not split the class even if it was 75 students on the first day of school. In fact, the district would not even announce to the parents what the teacher was going to be for that class. What would happen when I arrived was that all of the students in any class that was close, 74 kids, 75 kids, 76 kids, they would all arrive and go straight to the gymnasium. And when they were in the gymnasium, the deputy superintendent would count the number of students in the room, and then they would decide on that day how many classes, how many sections there would be at that grade level. I didn't think that was the best practice that we could do. I talked with the Board of Education at the time about the practice, and we established a practice where we would split a class that was 2 students away from the maximum. So if a class was 73 as opposed to 75, we would split it. And that's, I've shared, as the board has changed over time, I've shared that with every new successive board member that has come into place, and the board has always supported preemptively splitting classes that are close, as opposed to what the district used to do, which is only split them on the first day if they were already over the maximum limit. So that action has naturally reduced class size in the district because we are preemptively splitting some classes. And again, that decision gets made on the Wednesday before school opens, the last Wednesday in August, so that we calibrate it as closely to what we're experiencing as possible. The only time we have ever split a class that is more than 2 students away from the maximum that's in the policy is when there are special education IEP reasons for the class needing to split. So what will often happen is when there is a class with special needs, they will be mainstreamed for part of the day. And if the mainstreamed numbers of kids would cause the class to go over the class size maximum, then we would split the class for that reason. So we have one class this year that split not 2 students away from the max, but 3 students away from the max, but because they have a mainstreaming role for a special class that's also in the building. So I certainly understand the argument that no matter where you draw the line, if it's 2 away from the split, 3 away from the split, 4 away from the split, whatever class is 1 more than that will say, I'm comparable, I'm on this side of the line, it's not great, the other class is on that side of the line and we're not that different. But this is the problem with any line that you draw. There will always be somebody that's on the side of the line that's not popular. But what we've done consistently through all of the years that I've been here is that 2 away. So there were a couple of classes last year that ran at 25, 25, 25. There were parents who were unhappy about that and also complained. And what we did do was put class size reduction tutors in there. So Dr. Curry supervises the building principals. Part of what she's been doing the last week and a half is meeting with each of the building principals to go through their staffing and their class plans to see if they have identified any additional needs. So certainly we'll be attentive to what those needs are. If those needs are behavioral needs, there might be behavioral supports put into the room. If those needs are learning needs, there would be learning supports put into the room. What we try to do is tailor the intervention to what the actual experience and needs of the children are, because we all have the same goal of having our kids make sure they have the best possible experience that they can get. We have small elementary schools in this district. So I know Dr. Curry's previous district had monster elementary schools, 800 or 900 students in a school. 1,000, I'm sorry, I underestimated. What that means is those classes would fill very efficiently. I'm sure they were very close to whatever the class size maximum was, because when you have large numbers, they're easy to divide into things that look comparable. When you have lots of small schools, if you have a class that is 76 and a class that is 72, even though there's not a lot of kids difference between them, the class that splits into 4 is going to, excuse me, the class that splits into 4 is going to be a lot fewer kids in school. That has always been the case in Syosset, and in fact, when I arrived here, more often than not, the building that had the smallest class sizes was Whitman, just because of the way the numbers broke. And there was, I fielded similar kinds of questions about why is class size so small there and it's not so small here. And it is because this is the operation of having a maximum, a cutoff. Inevitably, there are going to be some small sections, and inevitably, there are going to be some that are very close to the max. But as a district, our average class size is right around 20 and a half. So it's not, while the board has a maximum of 25, there are very few that are close to that maximum. Most are around the 20 range, and again, that is the range we think that's optimal, and that's the average that is achieved by having a maximum that is set at 25 and at 27. So we'll certainly revisit the staffing in the classroom to make sure the classes and the teachers have supports that they need. The practice around class size, although the board's resolution was adopted decades ago, the board did give me the flexibility to do this preemptive splitting, which has had the net effect of effectively reducing class size somewhat in the 11 years that I've been here. And I will certainly defer to the board about what it wants to do going forward. But in terms of the second request, in terms of staffing now, we did add class size reduction tutors last year to the tight classes. We have done that consistently over the years. We've added behavioral supports. We have a new behavior technician that can go in and do observations in the classroom and tailor the supports to the needs that we see. And we'll certainly do that because it won't be an irregularity in what we've done before. And we would absolutely treat the Walt Whitman Grade 3 in exactly the same way we've treated all of the other tight classes that we've experienced over the years.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rogers. And this closes the meeting for this month. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Velkov. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you. And see you in October. That's going to be Tuesday, October 14th. Thank you.